Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 488. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what is up?
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about the books we read this week, even if it's a couple days after Christmas. I'm sure we've all had busy weeks. But coming up on today's show, we have Absolute Wonder Woman issue 15, Absolute Superman issue 14, Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 7, Detective Comics 1104, Superman issue 33, Green Lantern issue 30, The Flash issue 28, Justice League Red issue 5, Justice League Unlimited issue 14. We'll both be talking about Green Arrow 22 as a Patreon book, and then I've also got a couple of Patreon books because I didn't want one of them to wait until because we won't be here next week. I'll more on that in a second. But I'll be talking about Gideon Falls issue 8 and the next Planetary issue, which is actually the Planetary Authority Special. I actually didn't double check what the name was, but I think it's just Planetary Authority Special. So that's what I'll be talking about at the end of the show today as well. So that's what's coming up on the show. And as I just said, next week there's no show. And the reason why there's no show is because there's no books. DC are taking the week off. They're not putting any books out on New Year's Eve, which is the day it would fall on, which suits us. Typically, we might do the annual episode just sort of at our usual time then. We're not going to do that this year, though, because Connor will be free to join in the annual episode sometime a little bit later, early to mid-January, so we're going to do it then instead so he can take part. But that is the plan going forward. So week off next week, everyone can just chill out, relax, maybe catch up on some old books, whatever it is. I might even have the form up for people to vote on their favourites of the year for the annual episode. I may have that out around this time next week so people can start filling that out. So instead of listening to the show, you can spend 20 minutes writing in your top 10 and whatever else you want to do. So anyway, yeah, that's the plan. So we got a decent number of books to talk about today. Although I will say up front, I won't say which ones yet, but there's a couple that I didn't read this week. I made a conscious choice, and it wasn't like a last minute thing either. I made a choice like yesterday. I looked at the list of books that were out and went, I don't want to read that and that. I'm just not going to, because life is too short, and I'm valuably in my time. I'm going to enjoy my comics more if I don't force these into the list. It'll feel less like work and more just like a good time. And I think I was right in that assessment. But maybe. Well, even if you ended up liking them, Matt, I still think it was the right choice for me. But Matt is a psychopath and read just about everything that he would have. So he's going to talk about everything today.
it came down to the wire. See, what I do is I spread out my books, and if it's something I really want to read, so like what was the last Absolute Batman? Was that 15? Yeah. I was like, I'm going to read that first. But usually I'll hold off that stuff to last. Make it like a treat, main event kind of stuff. This week, though, I spread them out, almost not giving myself a choice. Although I did get to a certain book towards the end, and I was like, Pete, I don't think was going to read. He wasn't big on this last one. He'll read it. He's not going to leave me hanging. and I read it anyways. And I think I know which one it is, so we'll find out when we get there. But yeah.
Interesting you said one there. One.
Yes, because I know there's multiple, but there's one in particular that I felt like I was like, I don't know. So yeah. Yeah.
Are you wearing a Taylor Swift shirt, Matt?
No, this is Sabrina Carpenter.
Oh.
So I have this collection that usually comes from like the cheap section of like a department store of female pop stars. Right, so it started with a Dolly Parton shirt that I got at a Kohl's, and since then I've gotten Shania Twain, J-Lo, Selena, and Kelsey Ballerini at one point. I think I haven't worn that one yet, but usually I cut the sleeves off and turn them into a gym shirt. So I think it's really funny to see a big husky white guy wearing these pop divas at the gym.
I'll tell you this,
and my wife,
I don't think I would tell I couldn't tell you the difference between their music. If you played me Sabrina Carpenter and Taylor Swift, they would sound the same to me. I guarantee it.
I don't think so. I think you would pick up on the major differences. Sabrina has much more of a better voice than Taylor does. I think you would instantly be able to pick that up.
Fair enough, but I wouldn't know which one is which because I don't know either of their music to begin with.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of Sabrina. She's a character. So I've been needing a Sabrina shirt.
You should watch Noobs because she's in that. That was like one of her early kid roles.
Yeah. What's Noobs?
It's a movie about a group of characters who go to like a video game tournament in Las Vegas. So it's like a road trip movie.
Gotcha.
You should watch it.
Sounds a little bit like the. You're saying this with a smile, so I don't trust you.
We might have done it on Extra Reels.
Gotcha. Okay.
Do you remember?
Tells me all I need to know.
Yeah. Do you remember what the premise of Extra Reels is? Yeah.
But yeah, anyways,
for those of you who don't know at home, Extra Reels is a show where me and David review some of the worst movies ever made. Noobs is like a 2 out of 10 at best. It's an absolute travesty. Look, it's embarrassing.
It's got an early Sabrina Carpenter appearance, and it's set in Vegas. What's not for me to watch? You know, I'm gonna have to give it a go. And if it's on Tubi, even better.
You like your Jane, Silent Bob stuff, right? You're into that, Marky?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other one, not Kevin Smith. The other one's in it.
Jay?
Yeah.
Not Silent Bob? Gotcha.
Right. He's in it, and despite the fact that he's clearly like 40, he's hanging around with I think they're supposed to be playing like 22-year-olds, but this was made in like 2013. He's already 40. I don't know. Yeah. That's weird. It's terrible though.
He's already lived a life.
Yeah. It's absolute trash. So you brought up Shania Twain in your list of names there. I may have told you this before, but are you aware that Shania Twain has different versions of all of her songs for outside of the US?
I did not know that.
Because I discovered this a couple of years ago because I happened to hear the American version of That Don't Impress Me Much. And I went, what is this country sounding shite? This is not what this song's supposed to sound like. And it turns out that because her or her producers, whoever, know that the rest of the planet hates country music and it would never be popular, they did like a very different mix of all the songs. So the version of That Don't Impress Me Much that's always played on the radio, music channels and all that sounds very different in the rest of the world. There's no twang. There's no...
Wow.
It's more like sort of synthy dance music.
That's crazy. Especially for Shania, because I would get some other audience, but when I think Shania, I instantly think the country ballad type stuff.
Yeah, that's not what anyone outside the US
that
thinks.
Huge. Yeah, I'm not even that huge on Shania. I guess the shirt was $6, and I was like, I'm getting this, you know. So and it's always fun to show up to football too wearing those because that one's sparkly. That one has some like glitter on there, and some of the guys don't know how to handle that. So you know,
very good.
But yeah, anyways, I got this from my wife, who's helping support my new little hobby. She bought me a Taylor Swift one, but I'm not wearing it. You know,
in protest.
I've known better.
What you should do is you just get a Jake Gyllenhaal shirt and wear that instead.
Brother, my dearly loved brother, when he gave my wife her Christmas present, it was from Jake Gyllenhaal. He said he had it mailed to him. So the tag, I don't even know whose handwriting he used because it wasn't my brother's handwriting on the tag. So yes, he did get a shirt last year that said Jake Gyllenhaal did nothing wrong. And it took my wife about 15 minutes to realize because it was on the back of his shirt, you know.
It's a stealthy message.
Yes. Although he kept walking like backwards so she would notice it, and she just was so wrapped up in everything else going on Christmas Eve, she did not notice it. But yes, the trolling. I've thought about that, but I also, you know, she goes to sleep after I do, Pete. So I'm not leaving myself vulnerable to any kind of shenanigans.
Oh, you fear for your life is what you're telling me.
If I were to show up wearing a Gyllenhaal shirt. You know, unless it's his character from Nightcrawler.
You want a photo of Gyllenhaal's face and then like a tombstone that just says Taylor Swift on it, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe put something like mediocre pop star 1980 whatever to.
Yes, here lies a mediocre pop star. Dude, as I was reading the comics last night, she started that 6-part documentary that they put out on Disney Plus, and I just kept looking. And it's not really a documentary. It's a lot of fan footage from social media and like whatever. And like again, everyone has their own thing, you know. Like I watch far too much wrestling or whatever. But just listening to some of the stuff, there was a time where I had to get up and go outside to read because I kept getting distracted by just I'm like, who put this together? This is more just fan footage of her tour that she sourced. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, I wish Connor was here because Connor, I'm sure, would be sticking up for this. Because he's a big Swiftie.
Yeah, who knows what he's doing right now? I'm sure there's some poor defenseless animal that's either attacking him and he's like taking a dive, like someone trying to get a free penalty in a sporting event, or maybe he's just hurting small animals because he's evil. I mean, it's either one or the other.
Yeah, I don't know. I almost forgot what he sounds like. This has been forever. You know?
Nah, I hear his voice just randomly echoing through the halls. Most distressing.
Yes, it is. It's almost like a Christmas Carol. He's like Jacob Marley.
I mean, I still record Star Trek episodes with him every so often, so it's not been that long for me.
Yes.
But yes. Anyway, let's get into things, shall we? And get into the business. Starting off with the Kindle rankings, the list formerly known as the ComiXology Top 10. Just looking at how the books are ranked as of right now on the Kindle store. Matt, would you like to take a guess as to what number 1 is?
Well, I'm going to guess Absolute Wonder Woman 15.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I'm trying to think of a way to jazz it up and make it suspenseful, but no, that's just right. Yep. That's number 1. Number 2 is Absolute Superman. Number 3 is The Will of Doom. Guess Marvel have got a new thing out this week. Number 4 is Red Hood versus the Joker, which was not on our list of books that we are going to talk about this week. Although patrons can vote for it. It's in the vote, which you have until the end of the month to go vote on if you're a patron.
Yep.
Number 5 is Justice League Unlimited. Number 6 is Superman 33, which is the Lex Luthor versus Etrigan fight issue. Number 7 is Absolute Martian Manhunter. Number 8 is The Flash 28, which is the Flash Green Lantern fight, or specifically that being Jay versus Guy. We have number 9 is Detective Comics, and number 10 is Amazing Spider-Man. So DC have 8 out of the 10 of the top 10 books.
That's good.
Admittedly, Marvel may have not published as much since it was Christmas. You know, sometimes that swings and roundabouts with which company publishes more in a week, but still not bad at all. Number 11 is Green Lantern. Justice League Red comes in at number 13. So, you know, even another couple of DC books are quite soon afterwards. So, so very, very DC heavy 10. I guess the only thing that stuck out to me is that I thought Absolute Martian Manhunter, well, it still is doing well. And to be fair, all the books that beat it, other than the other Absolutes, which I did expect to be, I was expecting it to be number 3. All the books that are above it, between the other Absolutes and it, are a Marvel issue 1, and then all the other DC books that beat it are all tie-ins to KO. They're all event issues. So I guess fair enough in that case. It's still doing well, all things considered, for the type of book that it is. So cool. There you go. Those Kindle rankings. No need to dwell. We can move on. And we'll start into the books. Absolute Wonder Woman issue 15, Kelly Thompson writing with Hayden, Sherman on the art. So this is our first crossover issue between two Absolute books, with Wonder Woman going to Gotham to get Batman's help investigating some murders there because they've got Hecate symbols at the crime scenes, and that's taken an interest for her, obviously. I guess this was a very good issue. I really liked the first interactions between the two characters. I like, where it went with expanding the Wonder Woman lore a little bit with what the bad guys are trying to do here. The only weird thing for me is that it's not part 1 of 2, but we are crossing them over again in the next Absolute Batman issue, and I thought it was really strange how at the end of this issue they say goodbye, like, oh, we've had our first meeting, we'll meet again soon. And I'm like, yeah, the next issue of Batman. I was expecting it to be the first half of a 2-parter because I knew that both, this issue and the next Batman issue were both crossover issues, but they're both like standalone crossover issues, which is that's still a little bit strange to me. But that aside, I really like the issue. Everything was good in it.
Yeah. This is a Absolute Wonder Woman featuring Absolute Batman. It's not like a crossover. Like, I don't feel like there's a unifying story.
I just mean crossover. In the sense of the characters, but
yeah. So, but yeah, it's still very good, and Hayden Sherman getting to draw Absolute Batman. I like to see, because we've only had a couple artists that have done Absolute Batman at this point, so it's cool to see what Sherman does. And in fact, this week, when you count the Superman tie-in to KO, he got to draw, Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman all in 1 week, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, there's a good chance he probably drew them like a month apart, but yeah. In terms of release, So the issue also starts with Kale. Kale's on the phone to someone talking about Wonder Woman, and she actually turns out to be behind what the villains are doing. And it's revealed at the end of the conversation that she's talking to Grimm, which of course is, as we have just recently discovered, is the name of the Joker in this world.
Which I kind of forgot because I was like, who the hell's Grimm? I know that name. And then it clicked again. Oh, that's Absolute Joker.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. We're crossing over the heroes, so the villains are secretly talking to each other.
Cool. And we saw the villains crossover before even the heroes with that Absolute Evil.
Yeah, they're already connected. So,
so it's good to see that stuff kind of come back around, and it's really making Kale seem like a big deal in a way that she doesn't in the regular universe, where she just kind of feels like one of Wonder Woman's enemies. Nothing like she's an arch nemesis or whatever. But here it definitely feels like she's a bigger threat to the whole shebang, than normally, which is real cool.
Yeah, she feels bigger in the shared world stage. I think she feels like a big deal in Wonder Woman when she's written correctly, but I don't think she feels like she's part, like, because if you were to put, like, say, I guess you just say it's the Injustice League or the Legion of Doom, but if you were to put, say, like, all the arch nemesis together into a team, which is what that typically more or less is, Kale is never the Wonder Woman representative. It's always Cheetah. Maybe you get like Ares, perhaps, on the occasion.
Sometimes Dr. Psycho, because he fits that.
Yeah, but never Kale. And I feel like here they've made a conscious effort to say, no, Kale is the big, like, sort of main human baddie of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and I like what Kelly Thompson's done by making her this figure of science, right? Because what we've seen with her project, like, she does tap into magic, but she definitely seems more like a science-based to counter Diana's more magical side here.
And what's going on with her hand, Matt? What's up with the hand?
I don't know. It's something. It looks Gollum-esque, and in that, like, she got corrupted by something,
She got her hand caught in the cookie jar somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe. And it's been turned into this black and blue veins kind of thing. Anyway.
It almost looked like electrical type deal when we get to it, so.
A little bit, yeah. I could see that. So Diana goes to Gotham and she makes a bat signal out of magic, which is interesting in the context of this because Batman's not really done that. Like, he's not got a signal yet in this world. So this is like almost like might even like give him the idea of having a signal in the sky because it's not established here. And it's funny because not to talk about it yet, but like Green Lantern kind of does this same thing in Green Lantern this week to signal Batman. And it's fine because it's like, like that's literally how Batman is called in the city by people. It's kind of his gimmick. But here it's interesting because it's not been established yet.
Yeah, and it's his big axe symbol too. So it's this big ominous thing hanging over the city, which I do like. And when we get introduced to Batman on, looking into it, he's hanging upside down like a bat, which I think was a fun little art piece.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh, like I, expected you to be quiet, but I don't think there's like a word to describe like, how good you are at this."
Especially considering your size, because don't forget, he's an absolute tank
Yes.
of a human.
Yeah,
So...
and he's like, "Is this a magic thing?" And he's like, "Define magic," and she's like, "Well, it's advanced chemistry with some unknown elements thrown in, and so on, so on.
Unusual resources."
Yes.
Yeah.
There's some really nice exchanges here because Batman is not super confrontational with her. He's kind of understanding of like, okay, he doesn't come ready to pick a fight. Like sometimes the first Batman interaction can be with another hero. But there's a really nice exchange here where she says, "You hurl yourself from skyscrapers with no fear, but you can't fly. How did you learn to do that?" And he just says necessity, to which she responds, "A good answer." I'm like, these two are getting along swimmingly.
Yeah.
Absolutely swimmingly. So, so they start talking about the crime scenes and these murders that are taking place and all the rest of it. But and they even talk about some more character stuff. This idea of like, he keeps his identity secret, keeps in the shadows and all that, and she basically says, "Oh, that bell is rung for me. Like the people know who I am, they know who my friends are. I can't really undo that." And Batman says, "Well, if you could, would you?" And she says, "No, I don't think I would, because ultimately I want to show people who I am, to try and inspire them." That's kind of more her way versus Batman's way, where the fear in the shadows is kind of a big part of what he does. So
it might be the absolute universe, but that's still very much Wonder Woman and Batman.
It is.
Those are the things that make them.
That is the big thing here. Is like, we've been getting kind of there a bit more in all of these absolute books. I think Wonder Woman was probably the one that felt the most Wonder Woman-y right from the get-go in a lot of ways. I think Superman and Batman, though, have started to feel more and more like Batman and Superman the more we've went on in their books.
Yeah.
And including that here as well, because he feels very Batman. And a lot of his, the way he talks about magic, the way he's skeptical about certain things, but kind of, and she gives him like a Hecate symbol that's like, hey, if you touch that with your bare skin and ask for me, say my name, Diana of the Wild Isles, I will be called to you as long as I'm on this plane of existence. And he's like, okay, but it's actually set up for later. This has got a really nice payoff later that she's giving her. Because I thought this was going to just disappear and it'll be something that's used a year from now, like in another book. But no, this is something that comes up by the end of the issue.
Yeah. Well, and she calls it it's her twist on the Hikatia, which was a Wonder Woman story that involved Batman. Yeah, there you go.
Or Hakeisha, maybe. But
so I thought that was yes. Yeah. But however you pronounce it, I thought that was a nice callback. I didn't expect it to pay off so soon, like Pete said. Like I was like, oh, that's cool. They're drawing on like, the other universe, that this is where they met.
I think this is there's a good plot in this issue, because once they get to the crime scene and there's two Hecate symbols, Diana immediately is like, this isn't really making sense. Like, Hecate is all about three, so you'd have three symbols of anything. You should have at least 3 candles. You should have this, and it's not quite adding up. I actually like the reveal of what this was. Is that this wasn't about Hecate? It was just meant to look like Hecate to draw her in, because the actual goal was to get her inside a circle, which she ends up kind of because they go and investigate this tower on the other side of the woods or whatever, and that's where these druid-looking people are. But it's witchcraft, and they've collected a bunch of organs from all these people they've killed, and Diana sort of realizes, oh, this is witchcraft. They're trying to do a spell here to make a golem, or a figure they can control, is basically how you describe that. But the twist, when they get to it, is that, and this is Veronica Cale's doing, is that because Diana is known to be the mythical kid who was born from clay, that kind of makes her a golem herself. She's kind of created from magic. So this is actually about controlling her. So the issue turns into, oh, this dark magic these guys are doing, which required like some of her own hair. They got that somehow, but they've also got all these organs from all these dead people. So it took a lot of effort. I like that it takes a lot of effort, because you can't just have them doing this every week to Diana, like, and now she's aware that it's a possibility. She can be a bit more careful with certain things.
Yeah. She can't be as trusting, right? She's left herself out there. But no, it goes back to what she said with its like chemistry with unusual resources, right? So the fact, like, all you need to know is the formula, right? And however Kale came across this ritual, You know what I mean? And so it leaves her open. So she got to be a little bit more careful, almost having to learn from Batman there, right? Of keeping your sources close and whatever.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, they go investigate this place, the spooky clock tower at the edge of the woods, all that kind of thing, and they go in. She's like, hey, don't cross this circle of salt, but they're kind of like drawn in magically, like they get sort of tripped into it.
well, yeah, the way that I read that is that Bruce kept going because he's a little bit more foolhardy, right? Because he's not our typical Bruce. And she tries to stop it. All the momentum kind of carries him forward into it with a little help of the magic pushing them along.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it felt like a big oopsie on Bruce's part.
No, it felt like to me like she was stopping him, but the red mist kind of pulled him into it. I don't know, maybe that's just the way I read it, but I guess it's could be interpreted either way. But either way, she's in the circle now, and this starts to take her over, and she realizes it's taking her over, so she's like, oh, I have to give Batman a fighting chance, because like the whole idea here is that they would take her over and she would kill Batman for Joker's sake. So she basically gets rid of her magic arm, so she's only got one arm, to give Bruce like, hey, okay, I'm stronger, I've got powers. Yep. This gives him a better chance of like defending himself. But yeah, we see her kind of go into this kind of like, you know, zombie golem mode where she's got like, you know, the black lines coming from her eyes, and she just turns into a killing Terminator machine. She steals Batman's axe. We get a whole fight sequence with the funky layouts that Sherman loves to do.
So she has the big Buster sword, and now she's using the bat axe. And I'm just like, how does Wonder Woman keep being so cool?
Yeah, she doesn't dual wield them though. Not that she can, because she's only got one arm in the moment. But you know what I mean? Like, you know, that's what we need. Yeah. We need her dual wielding the Buster sword and the bat axe.
When that does happen, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be epic.
But it won't be like this. It'll be like a big pivotal moment when Batman throws it to her, like, here, Diana. Yeah. And you know, like she catches it, and it's like, you know. It's not Mjolnir, but I still, for some reason, I still imagine a lightning strike happening just as she catches it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is. It definitely feels like that. But yeah, she looks so, even just with the one arm, she's so formidable. Like, she's literally fighting with an arm behind her back and has Batman on the, you know, on the ropes. Yeah, which makes, you know, I like that this sells the power levels here, where it's like, obviously he's very capable, but she is, you know, very super powered. So obviously on a one-on-one fight, he's not going to be able to win. So she's like, oh, I'll take away this arm while I've got a little bit of coherence to give him a fighting chance. And then obviously he ends up, you know, getting out of this by pulling out the Hecate symbol that she gave him, asking for Diana, and that brings her back to who she is, and that's, you know, that basically saves the day. And she's like, hey, yeah, they had my hair and my DNA to, like, you know, pull this spell off. I need to be more careful of this. And the place is rigged to blow, so, you know, Batman grabs her and they jump out, and all the rest of it. So it's not like a super Christmassy issue, but like it does start snowing at the end, and Diana's like, whoa, is this snow? And he's like, you've never seen snow before? And she's like, well, I've seen it in, like, you know, photographs and stuff, but I've never felt it, and like the weird quiet that comes with it. Which actually, have you ever seen the snow before? Yeah. Oh yeah, it snowed here like years and years ago.
Once.
You know, also well, yeah, that I can remember. So it snowed a couple times, and it's not a regular occurrence. It does snow up on the mountain, right? So Vegas is a valley, right? And we have a mountain that has a ski resort.
It occurred to me that where you live, you might have avoided snow your entire life.
No. Like 15 years ago, it snowed here and it shut down the city because we only have 2 snowplows. Right, and it snowed so much they couldn't clear the roads. So that was the boss sent everybody home. Ash's store had to close early, so then I had to go wait for her to close out in my truck. Which, you know, no, not driving in snow. It's a whole thing. You know what I mean? That's having to learn how to drive on that and whatnot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, so I'm glad it doesn't snow that often.
Yeah, most people don't drive in snow here either, and like it happens at least a couple of times a year here, but that's still few enough that people don't. Whereas, you know, Canada's like, oh no, we've got this down to science.
Yeah, when we were on Prince Edward Island, they told us that the harbor freezes and the town just shuts down for the winter. So like all the area that we were in basically ceases to exist when the snowfall happens, because it gets that cold, and they just accept it as like regular. They're like, oh yeah, just winter comes, we do other things. And I'm just like, what? that's alien to me.
Yeah. Anyway, to get back to this, so you know, like they're talking a little bit. There's a couple of really nice things here. You know, one is like, hey, we should probably go meet that other one, because there's others like us. And Batman's like, you mean that Superman fellow I've been hearing about? And she's like, and I think there's others too. So they do acknowledge, yeah, it's not just the Trinity. There's a couple other ones, but she's like, yeah, we should probably, you know, if we're going to save this world from all the things that are happening, we probably need to meet each other. So it sets up that, which is nice. And they do a little thing here where the layout actually makes like a Superman emblem shape in the panels. I'm sure you noticed that. Yeah.
Yep, I loved it.
Yeah, and then the other thing is you know, obviously at the start of the issue when they introduced each other, she's like, I'm Diana, who are you? And he's like, I'm Batman. At the end here, she's like, hey, maybe you'll feel comfortable telling me your name. And he's like, I'm sure you've already figured it out because you're, you know, pretty smart and got superpowers. And she's like,
yeah.
And she says, I have, but, you know, that's for you to say, not for me to take. And he actually says, go on, say it. I want to hear. Like he wants to hear it from her. So she says, yeah, you know, hey, Bruce, happy holidays. Off I go. So.
Yeah, well, that's what she says. Bruce, don't you think we should make friends with Superman too? We're going to need a lot of friends. So I also like that this plays like, hey, we're friends now. You know, I'll call you this. I'm comfortable.
And it makes sense that Diana's the one that says that, because she's the one who does make friends immediately with people. Like, that's something she's been doing since issue 1 with Barbara Ann, with Steve, with whoever.
Yep. And that's her upbringing too, with saving all the little creatures, right, on the Hell Island. You know, as she collects them. And so, yeah, I like that keeps going here. And we even get Batman smiling at the end, because that's the effect that Diana of the Wild Isle has on people.
Yeah. No, I mean, this was very pleasant. I think as a first kind of tease to them having a working relationship, and then obviously at some point, I assume we'll get, you know, I don't know who's going to meet Superman first between them, but, you know, that'll come down the line, presumably. I have no doubt. Or maybe they'll do something else there. Maybe they'll have like Superman meet Green Lantern first or something. I don't know, just to shake it up and do something else. But sweet. I like that it wasn't a Christmas issue, but the snow at the end and them just saying Happy Holidays was a nice little like, oh, okay, this fits into the season a little bit, even if it's not going to focus on that. So that's cool too. I mean, I thought this was a great issue. It nailed kind of. It did the first meeting between these two characters in a way that felt true to what we think of these characters as traditionally, but with a couple of shake-ups where, you know, we're not going through maybe some of the same growing pains that they sometimes have. But we still got to see them fight, but it wasn't we have to fight first before we'll calm down and be friends. Like, it was you know, more of a specific plot that led to that, which enhanced kind of what the villains are up to. It was a nice little twist when we got to that point, so.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the page with Kale in her hand, and the way that she's talking, and she tells Grimm, because he goes, well, we'll have more chances, we'll make them, and she goes, that's what I want to hear. They can simply not continue to gather disciples. It'll tip us over, I promise you. So just the idea that even Kale knows, the more these characters get together, the worse it's going to be for them. The
more following they get, the more people they inspire, all that. Because the thing is the issue starts with her complaining that there's Wonder Woman merch and Batman merch that can be purchased now.
there's a chess set, and then there's a stuffed Diana in the garbage can, you know, that she has there, you know, and then the two chess pieces are Diana and Bruce in their absolute forms. So, just the whole idea that they're being the heroes that we know they can be, right? They are inspiring, and they are, you know, getting together. We can't let them do that, you know? Yeah,
they're going to get too powerful.
As of right now, the bad guys have, they have the edge because they're all working together, right? Like Joker and Kale are already talking here.
Yeah, they're all already talking. I think this idea of them realizing the threat that the hope of having these heroes around will cause against their agendas is a very interesting tactic to take, because it's so organized compared to, you know, typically what you have with the multiple villains. And obviously you couldn't do this with the traditional versions, because, you know, traditional Joker is not going to play well with others this way, but this version can, because this version is very different. This is a very cold and maniacal planning type character. So this is a lot of fun. Yeah, this is very good. Love the twist. Like the the horror movie vibes of it almost when they were finding like the cultists doing the ritual, and yeah, all that was good fun. So Matt, what are you giving Absolute Wonder Woman 15?
I'm gonna give this an 8.5.
I'm gonna go 9. Really liked it.
Okay.
Really liked it. So there you go. Absolute Superman issue 14. Jason Aaron writing with Rafa Sandoval on the art, and this kind of wraps up the current arc with the fight, which is a lot of the issue, to be fair, is Ra's al Ghul fighting Superman, stabbing him with the kryptonite sword, and all that stuff. I guess the big thing here is that when Superman keeps resisting, keeps saying, no, I won't bow, I won't be your son, in various ways. Raz tells Brainiac, who's kind of infected Saul, to kill all of his friends. And Saul fights back and says, I'm still in here, and I won't let this be taken control of by an outside entity like you. So Saul basically deletes himself so that the cape has no longer got an intelligence in it. So the cape still works, it still functions as a cape, it can still, and Superman even uses it kind of as like a big sword later on, so it still forms into shapes at his will, but there's no intelligence in there that can talk to him anymore. His last friend from Krypton, if you want to call him that, is gone.
Yeah, his last tie to home, the one thing. And there's that whole undercurrent here where when it starts getting like bad for Cal, he starts seeing his parents in the fields of Krypton and crypto, and it keeps going back to that every time Roz gets another deep cut or a well-placed punch. It's almost like they're trying to call him home, right? So the fact that he fights through by the end, but he's finally, or not even finally, he's out by himself now. There's no vestiges of Krypton with Cal anymore.
Yeah, well, he's by himself.
It definitely makes him feel alone
in terms of Krypton, but obviously, the people on Earth that he's now kind of turned into allies and friends and inspired. And there's a whole bit where he blasts Raz with heat vision. He's like, "Oh, you're finally showing some spirit, boy." But there's a whole thing here where the townsfolk try and basically threaten a peacemaker robot that's grabbed Superman after he's been thrown away by Raz, and the peacemaker's like, we're going to shoot you, all right? We're not going to stop you, or we're not going to stop just because you're innocent people or whatever. But Superman does a whole thing here where he actually ends up saving the pilot of the mech suit. He kind of comes in and saves him. And then that pilot ends up turning to all the other peacemakers and says, "Hey, I didn't join up to shoot a bunch of farmers. I'm from Oklahoma. I don't want to do this." So the peacemakers actually all put down their weapons. And so what I like about that is that it's already this idea that Superman does one simple act of protecting this person who's technically his enemy, which, by the way, pisses off Raz. He's like, "Oh, you're so weak. You're protecting someone who was even on my side. Oh, such weakness.
You'll never be the son of the demon." And then he talks about how many times he's been through the Lazarus process, and how many sons of the demon he's gone through, and he'll never find one. And it's just one of those things where it was like, oh, Roz does this routinely, so yeah, and that makes what Cal does even more, right? This is a thing that Roz has done multiple times, but he's finally the one to essentially end it the way that he does here. Yeah.
Although I'm pretty sure most of those other fathering attempts probably didn't get to such a big battle like this one did.
No. Oh, no. It was just they didn't do what he wanted, and he'd take them out.
Yeah.
Which makes Primus, right? Talia, she's still running around somewhere.
Yeah,
right? She doesn't look like she gets brought in.
Yeah, she gets away at the end of this, so she's still out there. Where Superman has defeated Raz, and Raz is like, "Yeah, go on, become the son of the demon, kill me." And of course, he doesn't do that. He decides to take him back to Pakistan, which is kind of the first area in the book where we saw the horrible things that was happening because of Raz. Not the only place that he's done horrible things, but he takes him back there and says, see that he is tried for his crimes, and they agree to do that, and he's kind of goes into hiding for a little bit, but he comes back to Smallville weeks later to go check on Martha, but sadly finds out that she's died the previous night in her sleep. And it's all very sad, but the nurse is like, hey, she kept talking about you coming here and like talking about you showing up. She left something for you, and it's a box, right? So he gets this box, and then the final page reveals what was in the box, and it looks like a very traditional Superman outfit that Martha has made for him. And there's a little note saying, from Martha and Jonathan for our angel, our lost son, Clark Kent. So this is interesting because I wasn't expecting him to get a more traditional looking outfit, and even now that he has it, like, does he want to use it right away? That's like another question maybe I'd have, because in this issue he makes a whole point of ripping off the S at one point when he's fighting Raz.
Yeah, so Raz is telling him, cast aside your old life and embrace your destiny, and he rips off the shield of his chest, and that's where he talks about like on Krypton he wore the crest of the Labor Guild. It was seen as a mark of shame, but my parents taught me to wear it with pride. We were children of the sun, and those who made their way with their two hands, and that's like the rallying cry. So when he makes the sword out of Soul, right, to use against Roz, he goes, we were the people of steel. And so the idea that he's ripped off that, right, because he's the son of nowhere nothing, yet he's still holding up those beliefs of his parents, not of Krypton, right, but what his parents made that symbol represent. So I feel like at the end, her making that suit for him is him reclaiming that symbol as a symbol of the Kents, right, or even the L's, not just the Labor Guild, at the bottom. So that whole him symbolically ripping it off just to have Martha tie it on, or stitch it on, her own version of it. I really like that because now he gets to start fresh and make it what he wants it to be.
Yeah, it looks a little bit unfinished as well. Like the leg and the arm doesn't seem to be finished. So we'll see what he does with that. And it's kind of patchy looking. So I wonder if he like does some modifications or what. But interested to see where we go with this of him having a potentially more classic look to him going forward.
Yeah, and I will say him showing back up with the Smallville with the red hoodie with the blue sleeves looked a little bit like Earth One, and it sketched me out a little bit because I don't want to be reminded of that book, So, I saw that, I was like, oh no, and I was like, oh no, this is it's absolute. I trust Jason Aaron. This is good. It's
been like 15 years. You can let it go. Just let it fade into the background.
It's rough. But no, I do like, the stuff with Soul, and again, what that represents with, Soul essentially takes himself out, in order to save like the new people, right? It was Jimmy and Lois, and who else was?
Lana was there for sure.
And so, to save them, it sacrifices himself, and it's still there. And I do feel like if we do get like a reboot scenario, and when Soul does come back in, I feel it'll feel triumphant. If we run into other Kryptonians, because who knows what's out there, right? This version of Krypton is not the best place. So I'm sure if we run into other Kryptonians, it might not be the best, and he might need Soul or whatever. So when he does come back, I feel like it'll be an earned and welcome re-edition.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a when though. I think it's more of an if, to be honest. Like, I could see this being the permanent goodbye for that idea.
We'll see.
I just because it feels like it was like a growing pains thing of like, and it's like I think it means something to me if Saul never comes back, because it's like, okay, now he has to make do with just the people on Earth. He doesn't have this tie to home anymore. So I can see them doing a lot with that.
Right, but I also feel like with that was also the fortress. So I just feel like him going on without the fortress, right? And even though it is the Fortress of Solitude, it is that one piece that does tie him, So just to do away with that, I feel like we can do away from it with a while, but I'd like to see it come back. But I also like that Soul ends up exposing Brainiac, even if it's just a Brainiac, where he goes, "Oh, I know what you are. You looked into me, but I was able to look into you as well." So I did like that. That was cool.
Yeah, he calls him by his exact number. Like he's like, "You're Brainiac 476,512 or whatever it was." So yeah, a fun moment.
It was real good.
Yeah, no, it was a good issue. It did feel like the first half of it was mostly just the same fight going for a while, and while there was good parts to it, it didn't feel as dynamic perhaps as like some of the better issues have. So I'm not going to be giving it like the highest marks, I don't think, compared to other issues. But the big moments were good, and I like kind of I like him inspiring someone to stand down. Like I think that's to me is the most Superman moment of the book, and obviously the end with the suit is interesting. So we'll see we'll see how that is. And I think the only question of like why I think he might not choose to put the new suit on immediately is because I think he might, but like because they've shown him in this last page just holding it. It makes me wonder if he was going to put it on immediately, would that not just be what the last page is him wearing this new suit triumphantly? I wonder if he's going to be a little conflicted about, am I still going to be this public-facing hero? I suspect he'll still wrestle with that a little bit, but we'll see. Maybe he's just wearing it to start next issue. I mean, it's hard to tell, but regardless.
I mean, he might just want to run back to the shadows, right? Like, this Superman's not been the most public up until this battle for Kansas. Because of him getting Ra's attention. So maybe he just goes back to the shadows, and we don't have to. We won't see the suit for a while, or maybe he finishes it. Maybe he learns to sew.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's this combination. But there's a line in there that the nurse tells him about. She never stopped talking about their son. She wanted you to have this. She's been working on it for weeks. So even as this battle's raging around, her, it was the idea of her angel that had come down, that was still pushing this on, and how much that he meant to her in their small time, because they weren't even together that long, right? It was like a month at most. So, just the nurse telling him this too, and there's almost like this pained expression on his face on that last page. So yeah, no, I thought it was really good. This is the really become a Jason Aaron kind of specialty story, because he told a story kind of like this in Thor as well, about what it means to be this inspirational figure, even if you're not trying to be, right? It's you can't control how that happens. Once you're out there and doing the things that you want to do, right? Being who you are going to be. How people take to that is on theirs. So I do like that he brought that to Superman here. And that goes against the whole, what we tend to think of Superman being this figure, right? Who stands for the truth, justice, the American way. This guy is just trying to do what's right by what he thinks. He's not trying to do all this inspirational stuff. He's just trying to help people. And he's almost become this figure by accident. And I like that.
He accidentally became important to work. And now he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And it's ruined his life. Yeah.
All right. What are you giving Absolute Superman?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8.
Yeah, I think that's why I was thinking as well. Just a straight 8 out of 10 for me on this issue. Still very good. Yep. Looking forward to see where they go from here. Absolute Martian Manhunter issue 7, Deniz Camp writing with Javier Rodríguez on the art. So yeah, we got Absolute Martian Manhunter back after a little bit of a break. So it's nice to have it back, and it's immediately doing a lot of its weird little things with layouts and little interesting ways it presents certain moments and panels, and how it presents ideas. Like sometimes the colored smoke just forms like an image itself, or sometimes, for example, their kid is like 10 foot tall in the first panel for some reason, and I don't really know why initially, but that's okay.
Well, I feel like he's the elephant in the room.
Yes,
right.
I mean, I think that's the gist of it. Yeah, is that he's what's weighing over them in the moment. Yeah. Yeah. It's also a dream, to be fair, as well, so it's not like it has to follow any rules, regardless. But yeah.
I really like the combination when it's John and the Green Martian together, like they're on that page, like the one where he's looking into the mirror, and it's, you know, got the 5 o'clock shadow on the green Martian face. And you're just like, what is going on here? You know, like, is this what he's seeing himself as now? As he's this combination being, or, you know, is he feeling outside of his body? Like, what does this actually mean?
I mean, yeah, I'm not even sure if he's seen it. I could see this just being like a representation for us, or the idea that he is becoming more and more alien to everything around him, so he's looking to us like more and more of the Martian himself. But yeah, he's alone. He's not living with his wife and kid right now after the events of the previous issues, and he's obviously depressed about that. He's like telling himself that he's going past his old house just to look in on the way to work, and the Martian like narration counteracts that by saying this is the opposite direction to work. You know, there's a lot of that going on in the first half of the issue, where the Martian will do his own narration, or whatever you want to call it, but it's like revealing the truth, and whereas John's narration is very much like the lie. It's the not like in a bad way, just like him lying to himself or whatever it is. So yeah, so there's a lot of that going on. They're talking about murders. There's a lot of again showing this idea that he's thinking about his family constantly. There's a panel where he's driving to the city, and there's just like giant versions of his wife just in between the buildings, like sort of like talking, yelling, fighting, you know, whatever you want to call it. So no, all that's good stuff. And you see that she's also kind of struggling with it as well. She's on the phone to her mother, presumably, and like the kid notably looks very creepy as he's making little Play-Doh.
He's dark.
Yeah, Martian things. He's been affected by that candy that he had.
The white Martian.
Yeah.
And like all the things that he's making too, they look like they're all different colors, right? Mixed together. So they're also reminiscent of that kind of the thought smoke that's coming out of people.
Yeah, and
like
we have a new thing that's introduced here visually, which is like a different color scheme that represents something else, and we see it a couple times in the issue. So when he goes to work, he says, "Hey, is this place been remodeled?" Because remember, he was on suspension or on leave for like a couple of months, right? So he's going back. He's like, "Is everything changed?" And the receptionist is like, "No, it's just the way you left it." And he's just walking in the sort of the into the main part of the building. There's a lot of like grey, black, and red kind of, not smoke. It's more kind of angular, but it's kind of reminiscent in the sense that it feels like it's representing something. And you see it again. You actually see it again in the office when he's talking to his boss, but you see it again like separately later on when he's looking at people. And it's like a cloud that's going past their eyes, but again, it's not that, you know, the five like bright colors that all the other smoke's been. It's this grey, black, and red color scheme, and it's almost like if the bright colors are representing seeing thoughts and seeing stuff that is coming out of their heads, this color scheme seems to represent stuff that's hidden, like stuff that he can't see, or stuff that's whether or not because something's actually blocking it, or he's just blinded to it. But he's not seeing, he can't read these people's eyes. This work feels alien to him, so he's seeing, at least that's how I interpret it so far. We've only had a couple of examples of it in this issue, so it feels like a new, you know, thing in the creative language of the book that they're going to start whipping out to mean something different as we go forward here.
Yeah, because in the FBI building, when he goes down the hall, it almost looks like a labyrinth design. With the black, right? Like there's all these dead ends, and it's like purposefully confusing. And then when he gets into the boss's office, you know, his desk is made up of the same design and behind him. So it's almost like this is someone that's obscuring something, you know, on purpose, versus when you see the people walking around with like the haze, it's the same colors, but it's lacking that design, right? Doesn't have that labyrinth style, you know, in on those. So yeah, so I wonder if it has something to do with, again, with this hidden, you know, obfuscation.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not convinced that it's something that's actively doing it to him, though. I was kind of reading this more as there's things that he's just starting to become blinded by because he's changing so much, because he's thinking about things differently, because he's estranged from his wife, so he's starting to not see things in the way that he used to. And like the idea with the people having it over their eyes is like he can't read people the way he used to, maybe, or something like that. I mean, maybe this could be like a white Martian influence or something, but it felt like to me not that, because it feels like the opposite of the bright colored ones, and the bright colored ones have always been about revealing truth. It's always about revealing what's actually in people's heads, and this is the opposite of that. This is like hiding things that are there. Right,
and the fact that it's coming from the FBI and his boss and that type of stuff too is the first place that we see it. You know, it's stuff that's not meant to be seen and whatnot. And then when we get to the people, though, with him not being able to read it, it's almost like they're walking around in a daze, because he says, you know, after their experience with the Martian vision, a brief and intense euphoria flooded into the city. To know and be known is a powerful thing, I guess. But after a while, the euphoria faded, gradually shading into shame. And then that's the people that are walking around with like this fog almost, right? Like this dense thing around them.
I think the key point I'm trying to get at, though, is this is not something the White Martian's done to them directly. It's like a natural after effect of the absence of what the White Martian did to them. So this is like more of like, like I guess what I'm trying to say is this more represents something that occurs naturally in a person. It just so happens that it's occurring to a lot of people because they all went through this same experience. Like, you know, I don't want to just call it depression necessarily, but the idea that it's like a real human thing that they're all feeling.
Yeah, it's almost like they went through the same thing together, and there's almost like a hangover from it, right? It's almost like their entire belief system were challenged, and now they had this whole euphoria, and then that euphoria went away, and now they're just kind of walking around in this daze. You know, because then we get to the page where they talk about how the White Martian's dead, but the Martian's like, no, death is a physical process. I said, we Martians do not have a death concept. Life, death do not apply. And it says White Martians cannot be completely killed, destroyed, refuted, only weakened, contained, and transformed. And that page, right, it looks like this Martian figure who's in the red and gray and white that we've seen, right, with all the maze labyrinth thing, is like pouring this white almost paint stuff onto the city, you know. So it's definitely a, you know, whatever the White Martian did, it has definitely been transformed. It's not what it was, you know. It's this new different take on it. And you know, and we get I anytime we got the Martian hanging out of the police car, I think it's a good time. And on the bottom of that page is he's hanging out and looking at the people.
Yeah, that full page spread where it looks like the Martian is like up there, but to me, like the coloring there looks more like he's being lit in those colors as opposed to he is those colors, if that makes sense. And yeah, he's playing with this puddle of because I took this as the Green Martian up top, who's just lit in these colors.
Okay.
And it's almost like he's trying to sort out all this residue that's been left over by the White Martian, but it's all dripping over the city anyway because it's too hard to contain it.
Gotcha.
But I mean, I could be misreading that. Maybe your way of reading it is right, but that's how I interpreted that. Just because it still looks like... Because the White Martian didn't look the exact same as the Green Martian before, I don't think.
True.
Whereas this one definitely has the same kind of head as the Green Martian. So...
Yeah.
But either way, you're right about the colour scheme, though. It's definitely that, you know, red, black, grey... You know, and then the hands are coated in like the white paint, if you will. Okay, I'll make one joke. The giant pool of jizz that's dripping all over the city. So I want to just go back and I want to gloss over the page where he's at work for the day, and it's like the panels make up like a building where his desk is sitting on the top of the building, and then all the panels are the windows going down the building, and then he's at the bottom, and it just sort of represents this idea of the mountain, the tower of work that he has to go through, all this paperwork. It's just a really fun, inventive page. I was into it. I just wanted to mention it. It was really nice.
No, it's real good because he talks about, like, despite working on it for 10 hours, it seems to have gotten even bigger. Right? And just so the way that this is drawn, it looks like it's forever tall, even though it's only 4 panels, right? Or if it's a grid of 4. But yeah, it looks like this gargantuan thing. Well,
it's
that point home.
It's a perspective thing because it's obviously it's angled in a way where it feels like it's really tall, despite only being 4 panels tall, if you will. So later on, and then the car still, the Green Martian like grabs his head, and again, this is more of a visual representation than anything, but it's like he's trying to show or explain kind of like like, so we see this beam and it goes through a bunch of like prisms and it hits this black prism, and this light, this energy, whatever you want to call it, it splits. Now, through the prism, we get the 5 bright colors that make up all of the thought color smoke that we've been seeing since issue 1, right? That comes out the other side. But on the side that it goes in, the ricochet that comes off is 2 colors, and that's white and green, which is obviously the color of the 2 Martians. I think this is... I have no idea what to make of this page, other than it's clearly trying to start to hint at the idea of, like, you know, like there's some type of... I don't want to say energy, but like it's trying to, like, build a mythology here, but it's only just teasing it in some simple way. But because these colors have been such a big part of the book up until now, it still felt like it meant something. Like, I still felt like, okay, I understand this to some extent, that they're 2 sides of the same kind of coin or kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird because it's not white, right? So if we were dealing with light, like in, let's say, the Green Lantern books, you know, all the colors make up white. That's not what's happening here. The white shifts off too from the original beam.
Yeah, don't think about Green Lantern here at all. This is clearly not following the same rules or ideas of that. It's definitely not.
Right. And so when it hits to that rock, it almost like goes through and comes out the yellow, blue, red, orange, and like pink. And then the green and the white go off in the other direction.
Yeah, that's why
definitely something.
I don't think it's light. Like, I think that's the thing to keep out your mind here, is that this is not light. This is energy. Maybe this is just the like life force itself. Maybe this is something specifically Martian. I don't know. But having said that, all these colors that come out of the heads all come out of human heads. So I think it's maybe something that's more universal to everyone as opposed to specifically them. But it shows that they like are separate from it, and that's maybe why they can see these colors or something. But a very interesting visual representation, but that we don't quite understand just yet. But like really tantalizing in and of itself, just in the moment. Anyway, he ends up crashing his car whilst he's been given this vision, because like of course he does. And at the end, as we're getting towards the end of the issue here, the kid's still playing with these weird like claymation dolls that he's made, and he looks evil as shit. The wife,
yes, he does. He had that dark eyeliner going on.
Yeah, the wife is outside smoking, and like her smoke is kind of like forming like her and her husband. And like, you know, there's kind of like, and it basically reveals that he's tried to explain to her what's going on. Like, you know, he's just like a flashback that she's thinking about, where it's like, Martians in your head. You're sick, John. You sound dangerous. Like, it's sort of revealing that he's had this conversation with her, and it's led to like her kicking him out. And then we see them both kind of like side by side, and the Green Martian's kind of looking down on both of them effectively as it goes. There is like a little moment here though where there's eyes staring at him through the cracks of the ceiling, so it's teasing a presence that's keeping an eye on him. That's not just the Green Martian. So
right.
So that's something to mention. Then it does the whole trick again, where there's one page. Digitally it's 2 pages, but physically it's 1 page where if you hold it up to a light, you see a secret second image. And it basically shows that on one version, it's just John on his own, getting ready for bed and then lying on his own, and it's very lonely. And then the other version, it's the wife and kid, but it's all lined up so that they're just, you know, they're kind of at a similar table. She's lying in the bed behind them if you put them together, kind of thing. And it's showing that they're both lonely right now, that they're both feeling this separation. It's not just him. It is affecting her as well. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, I like on the page where they're both smoking, right? She's outside, he's at that hotel, right? And it says, "You need help," and then it says Martian vision. And then I'm assuming if you look at it in the Martian vision, it shows them together instead of being alone, right? And so it's like this thing, like, he needs to be with her as much as she needs to be with him, right?
Well, that page is not a Martian vision page, though, to be clear. It's the page after that.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. So it's when it says you need help, right? That's what is going on in her brain. But then their smoke cloud connects to the Green Martian, and it says the Martian vision. And then the message that we get from the Martian vision, I'm sure if we look through it, is them needing to be together. Yeah. Right? It's the isolation is what's making, you know, so I like how that works. I need to pick this up physically so I can see what this looks like, because my brain's having a hard time putting it together, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It made sense to me. Because this works just as well as 2 pages. If you imagine they're both like on either side of the same 2-page like open, like it makes sense. It's just repeated panels of like the same kind of sequence, but with each character separately. Then there's a couple of pages at the end, which it feels very different to the rest of the book, actually, where there's some figures in weird outfits doing some alien probing, as it were, but then it kind of seems to reveal that this is actually just a really bad person and a group of characters who makes things look like alien abductions to get rid of people, or you know, because he's on the phone like basically accepting a job. And then the guy on the table who thinks he was abducted by aliens is realizing, wait, you're not all aliens. And then they just sort of casually shoot the guy in the head. And so yeah, this is someone hiring this guy and his team for maybe for John specifically. You know, maybe someone else. Hard to tell. But yeah. Interesting idea to introduce here at the end of this, because obviously we're at the start of the second half here. This is a kind of a new arc, but still obviously related. But this felt like a new element to introduce. You know, we had the black, red, and grey kind of new thing mechanically, and then this is like a new plot element they're introducing at the end here.
Yeah, and it's all those other colors, right, that are off from the offshoot. Just the way that they're all layered there. It's crazy. And then it turns out they're not aliens, right? And there's the speech bubbles are pink coming out of the guy that's on the phone. Yeah. It's definitely wild. I have no idea what to make of this, you know?
Yeah, a new antagonist of some kind, and who's hiring them? That's another question worth pondering. But yeah, this was like a little epilogue that just sort of teasing, because I like this issue a lot. Obviously the layouts are fantastic, the kind of the relationship between the husband and wife, they're kind of exploring that in such a cool little way, showing that they're both lonely. But from a plot perspective, this one was definitely a bit slower than like most of the previous issues, probably because it's sort of like, oh, we're coming back after a break, we're recalibrating, this is sort of showing where everyone is now before we get going again, and then just at the very end it's like, okay, here's where the plot's starting to kick in. So it was a little bit slower than previous issues, so maybe not my favorite, but everything that makes this book great is here. So it was still a very, very good time. Very happy to have it back. So yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving Absolute Martian Manhunter?
I'm gonna give this a straight 8. Like, it's pretty good. It's still, there's a lot going on here, and I feel like this is one of the few Absolute books that's the sum of it parts. I'm sure once we get the full big picture, all of the stuff it'll look better in retrospect. But as of right now, there's a lot going on. I don't know what to make of it, but it's still really good. Yeah,
I think it's getting into an 8.5 for me, just because the craft is so strong and like every scene's so engaging in its own way of like decoding what the hell each scene's doing with its art and how it's presenting the ideas and making us think a little bit. So still an 8.5 for me, but like, yeah, maybe obviously this book's had 9s, 9.5s, might have even got a 10 at some point. It feels like it might have done. So there you go. That's Absolute Martian Manhunter. Detective Comics 1104, Tom Taylor writing with Mikel Janin on the art. So we were counting down to quarantine, at least at the start of the issue. Obviously we cross over into quarantine. As one of the covers kind of spoiled for me, he's made like a quarantine suit, like a big thick armor bat suit that will keep in his germs so no one else can get them.
Yeah. It's I don't want to say it's steampunky, but it's like that BioShock game, right? Which I guess BioShock was kind of steampunky. But yeah, it's like this big, almost like an exploratory suit. And it's cool to see Batman in one of those.
Yeah. Batman's obviously investigating the disappearance of Jonathan Crane, or the kidnapping of Jonathan Crane from Arkham. Although notably, there's an interesting scene afterwards where he calls Selina, and she's like, wait, you called me on the phone rather than just jumping out at me like you usually do? I'm intrigued. But then, because Superman returns, he just sort of says, sorry, I have to go. So it's kind of teasing this idea that he wanted to talk to her because he is actually kind of scared, maybe still, about like what all this happening means and is this the end of him kind of thing. But he doesn't get a chance to actually say any of that. So it's dangling on the heartstrings of like his relationships a little bit. But he's working with Superman, and I guess the big thing here, other than just like where he's traced things back to, is that Batman gives him like a drive that has some methods to take Batman out that he cannot fight back against, and he calls it his kryptonite, and he's like, okay, I'll take this, because he's like, hey, if I become a danger, like if my like lack of fear becomes a problem, and it's something Batman says in his narration throughout this issue, he keeps sort of saying, I should be more scared of this jump, but I'm not, which is making me more reckless, so on and so on. So that's setting stuff up, but he's built his suit. Damien comes in and all that, and it's all about tracing where Scarecrow might be out into this field. But when he gets there, there's tons of like Scarecrow looking dudes, but there's only one that's on a post. So he does a whole thing, some fun action here with the Batmobile, kind of like shocking a bunch of them. Sends out a spark. He jumps out. He goes to the one who's most prominently on like on a pose, and he's like, okay, you must be Jonathan Crane then. And he pulls off the mask, and it ends up being the Lion, the villain, who starts fighting him. So we get some more action. Things start to light up a little bit. There's a lot of pinks and purples in the background. Janin's having fun with the color schemes. I think it's fair to say. So he's
because as the fight goes on, you get some oranges and pinks and the reds and yellows. So it definitely makes it feel like this is a moment. Right? Like, because you don't get a lot of that coloring in the rest of the issue. And we get that the Lion knows how to fight. So this Lion guy is starting to irritate me because he's starting to feel like because Batman the villain, like he's got a plan for everything,
Yeah, so the whole thing about teasing that he's someone else kind of comes up later on when they actually speak to Jonathan Crane, and he's like, this is a guy that came to study under me. But it wasn't about causing fear, it was about conquering it, and obviously that ties into everything. But even Batman, as he's fighting him, is like, hey, I recognize these techniques, like I've fought these techniques before. So I don't know if they're trying to get to this idea now. Either it's going to turn out to be someone specific, although I'm starting to wonder if this is someone who's went around a lot of the Batman villains and learned from all of them to try and turn himself into the ultimate Batman villain.
That's what it feels like. And he feels like Ghostmaker, the bad guy, but it's okay because we're not supposed to like the Lion. It's fine.
And he's like, hey, you're outnumbered, you're going to lose, you've come alone, you're weak, blah blah blah. And Batman's like, I didn't come alone. Big splash page of Babs, Dick, and Damien all driving into the scene. So we get a big Bat family action
all separate sequence. Separate motorcycles, and Robin for some reason has an ATV. Which I thought was just hilarious. Like, we can't trust the kid on a motorcycle. Give him 4 wheels.
He's definitely had a bike before, but maybe he just wants to be different. He's like, the others have bikes. I want a quad. I'm going fancier.
Thought it was, but it's a great page, man. Janin, I just love the way he draws Nightwing. That was the first time I saw Janin art was in that Grayson book. So seeing him drawn here, really good. And I also like the way that Taylor has been. Like, for as much as this arc's been about Batman, we've gotten so many supporting characters, right? We've got, Superman, we got Lois, now we have the Bat family here, at least the small number of them. And it just shows where Batman's strengths are, especially as, like, I feel as great as he is by himself, he really has bolstered, like, this family around him, and that's what makes him stronger. So I feel like that's what Taylor's doing with the undercurrent here. So yeah.
Yeah, and arguably it's the 2 most senior Bat family members. I mean, Dick and Babs are the original members, and then Damien's not next in line, but he's kind of closer in the sense that he's directly his son, so he's just kind of naturally, like, closest from a personal level. So yeah, there ends up in a whole fire in the field as this fight's breaking out, and they run away through the fire, because that's the thing, all these bad guys that he's got dressed up as scarecrows, they're all fearless because they've all taken this drug. So that makes them in a lot of ways more dangerous, but it means they're all willing to run into a fire. Damian actually chases after them, and Nightwing has to like grapple his leg and pull him back. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing, racing?" And he's like, "I'm not letting you run into a fire, you little shit." So,
well, and that also speaks to, right, Damian's the youngest, right? And he's just naturally reckless because he doesn't have the life experience, and that goes against where Bruce is at, right, where he's constantly questioning himself if he's being too reckless. So I do like that balance here. Like, it shows, Damian just being that reckless. I'm gonna go get the bad guy regardless, but that's what the bad guy wants, right? He set that fire, so he can't play into his hands. So I do like all that.
Yeah. We found out the guy's name was Leo Kingsford, so I still don't know if they're going to reveal that he's also technically another villain, but that's what Crane says when they find him. And that's pretty much the end of the issue. But he does say that he's become what he's become because of you, Batman, which again maybe ties into this idea of him learning from a lot of the rogue gallery to try and take him on. This issue I think is very well structured and paced. It's kind of like it's got like a little bit of like the personal side and the fear of what's going to happen to Batman. There's a bit of danger that even though he's built his suit, once the villain like cuts one of the hoses, he's like, oh shit, like I'm a danger to everyone else here now. And they end up just duct taping it basically in the last page. But it's like, hey, that's like a concern if you're walking around in this hazmat bat suit. And then half the issue is kind of this big set piece in the field. But I think it's nicely paced and has different sections to it where first it's kind of creepy because Batman's just driving and there's no one around, but it's all these scarecrows just standing there. And then it's just Batman versus them. It becomes a big one-on-one fight, and then you get the Bat family swooping in. So it kind of has all these layers to it. So it's very fun and well paced throughout, as opposed to just feeling like a lot of samey action. So I was quite happy with this as a middle chapter to this arc.
Yeah, I really like the fight scene between the Lion and Bruce, and the fact that he's like, oh, he punched over, and I made a miss, and then when Bruce thinks about it, he's like, no, he was going for the hose. And that's where he, again, him being reckless, he's not thinking clearly on this. And again, I feel like if Batman's not under the influence of this fear virus, that kills his sense of reasoning, this is over, soon.
Yeah.
So I do like that. The Taylor's playing that line very, very well.
Yeah, the Lion has weakened him in such a way where he's been able to hold his own in a fight against him. It might not be quite as easy if he was at normal 100% capacity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So,
it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, very pleasant read. Very flowed very well. Was done, what felt like very quick in a good way. So, what are you giving Detective Comics 1104?
I'm gonna give this I really did like it. I'm gonna give it 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go straight 8 on this for me. So sort of flipping from the last book a little bit, but that's okay. Cool. All right. Superman 33, legacy number 876, Joshua Williamson writing with Hayden, Sherman on the art. So you read this, Matt? Go on then.
I did. So I figured you didn't read this one. And this is the one that was up in the air. Now I definitely know you didn't read another one. So
look,
that was the foolish one.
This is not me dropping Superman by any extent. This is just me saying to hell with these fight issues. I'm good. So on you go, Matt.
So what's funny is this one is you're starting with round 7 versus round 6. Because there is a little bit more formatting. The formatting, yeah. So
I could have swapped them. That's my bad.
Either way, it don't matter. So in round 6, you see something that happens because what Waid does in the Flash book is he treats it like a Flash issue. This barely, Williamson does that a little bit here. There's a little bit of seeds, but you see a moment from this one in the Flash, which is weird. And this is for more on that. See round 7, Lux versus the Demon, which I thought was the first time that's really felt cohesive. But yeah, this one starts with Lex in hell, and it's teasing like he might have sold his soul to Neron, and the whole undertone to this story is, does Lex Luthor have a soul? Because that's actually the title of it. And if he doesn't have a soul, then what can the heart take from him? right? Like, because he's already given everything in pursuit of becoming better, right? Than Superman, than anybody else. And so yeah, it starts with there, and Hayden Sherman's doing some really cool stuff with the layouts. Like he has these demonic looking borders that go around that frame everything, and Luthor's hanging there naked when Neron comes to talk to him, because all you have to do for this to be over is make a deal with me. And then it cuts to Lex versus the Demon, and they're fighting, and it looks like they're in Metropolis. And it does the typical fight stuff here. Lex gets a little bit too aggressive, and Etrigan uses some of his flame breath. Actually, they go from what looks like Metropolis. Oh no, they're in Camelot. I'm sorry. So they're on the Demon's home turf. They land on the round table. The Demon uses his Hellfire breath, and Lex loses. We get this really cool KO scene, and in the fire, Sherman's written out Lex loses, which is pretty cool. And then they start to reform, but we actually see, because since this is being written by Williamson, we actually see them picking their next form off of like a fighting game screen. And Etrigan's doing his whole rhyming thing, which Lex hates, and they end up taking the form of Etrigan has this like, I don't know if you ever read Demon Knights, but he looks like he does in Demon Knights, where he's wearing more of an armor. He has this cool looking demonic sword, but Lex is in the Superman suit that he was at pre-Rebirth, right? When he wanted to do good, and he was, right outside of the New 52. He was a part of the Justice League. And he takes this form. They're in Metropolis, and it's basically not for the ties to Superman, but because he knows what's in this suit, which I had forgotten, but it's also made with Apocalypse technology. So there's a boom tube. So he ends up beating Etrigan in round 2 by throwing the boom tube at Etrigan's face and it booming away his head, which is pretty cool. Hayden Sherman's killing it with the layouts throughout all of these fight scenes. The stuff that he does with the angles, right? It makes the action move almost like cascading across. Like there's definitely a sense of motion. It is definitely the best looking of these fight issues thus far. And Lex is using some of these, Lex robots. And Etrigan's like, you're cheating. And Lex like, there's no rules, right? And yeah, in between all of this, we're getting the ties to the Superman book. So we have the Superman robots showing up with Lois in Superboy Prime. And that they have to do something to get Superman's hope back, which is what Prime has realized, right? Because Superman's the one person that they need to win to restore things to the way they need to be, right? To ultimately destroy or defeat, I keep wanting to say Apocalypse, but it's not. Darkseid and the Apocalypse Heart. And they get talking about the Legion, and Sunboy pokes through and says, like, Superboy Prime ran away. And he's like, well, I wasn't running away. I flew away, and that was the only way to win, right? Like, I couldn't stay there in that time period and fight you guys as the Apocalypse wave was coming over and deleting everything. So they end up getting that data that is from Lara, from Superman's mom, into one of the Superman robots, and they only have 2 hours. So the Superman robot, Lois, and Superboy Prime go to fly off to go to the Watchtower. And yeah, we end up getting Lex and Etrigan in round 3, which goes to hell. And Lex talks about, like, in the time that they did the from Superman 25, when he had the clone of him with Superman Powers XL, he went to that monastery and sat and thought about, if he was doing the right thing. And that's basically, he realizes that how he has to win is, like, he knows who he is, right? He knows what Lex Luthor's is willing to do. There is no right or wrong. There's no good, no bad. There's no soul. You are who you are. So basically, they're saying that Lex is rationalizing not having a soul at this point, right? And I still don't know. It leaves it ambiguous if he actually did trade Neron, right? But what he does here, the form that he takes is this Lex that's been hanging in hell. He has all of these like runes and symbols etched onto him. And Etrigan takes the form of the super demon from that Earth where everything's magic. And he's on a flaming sword and they're fighting. And Lex ends up casting a spell and calling the demon by his full name, which is Yarva Demonicus Etrigan. And he ends up taking the curse of the demon from Jason Blood and putting it into himself. And that's what all the runes and all the stuff that was etched on him are, right? So he says, gone, the form of man, rise the demon Etrigan. And now there's a demon version of Lex floating there over Jason Blood, who then kills Jason Blood. And again, Sherman's art makes everything look good.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought that Jason Blood without Etrigan would have stood much of a chance against Demon Lex Luthor.
No, not at all. And so the demon starts fighting back through Lex. And there ends up being a KO, right? And this is the only part that's really confusing. And I was hoping you had read it to give me a second opinion here. But as you're following it through, the demon starts pulling itself out of Lex. And then Lex says, the demon tells him, there's a darkness in you I find. And he goes, you're right, demon. There is one more powerful than you could ever comprehend. I refuse to let anybody control me ever. And then it goes to like a KO. And it's just naked Lex standing there like the Terminator. Right? When the Terminator comes down and he's standing and he's kneeling naked. And it's Lex standing tall. And he says, I don't care whether or not I have a soul. I'm not a pawn in anyone's game. I control the game. I win. I will be the god. And he gets a telepathic link from Grodd, letting him know that Darkseid Booster Gold is pulling something. Because he says he's been betrayed. He tricked the heroes. We were fools, Lex. He played us. And he goes, betrayed by who? And that's where it reveals a fully... he's got the Kirby crackles going around him. The Darkseid Omega energy on Booster Gold. And Time Trapper Doomsday goes to fight him. And he throws a punch and the Darkseid booster catches it and says, no, your story's over. No one's coming to save you. And the final panel is Superboy Prime, the Superman robot, and Lois heading up to the Watchtower. So, again, these fight issues are very redundant. And here, Williamson tried to tie it into the main book best as he could. But the rumination of does Lex have a soul, I think, was a pretty good, a pretty good thorough line, because it seems like there's something darker in Lex than that, right? And that's what Etrigan couldn't exploit. And it is that desire, right, to be more than himself. And he's willing to do what others aren't, which I think contrasts him against Superman, right? Where we've seen Superman be hesitant to do what needs to be done. And again, I feel like that's what it's going to come down to in KO. I feel like this is Williamson and Snyder and Waid for a little bit when we talk about the Flash, getting in on that, doing what's necessary. And maybe that's the trick. Maybe you playing by the heart of Apocalypse's game is where everything's wrong, But yeah, it was a pretty solid issue. I like seeing Hayden Sherman draw stuff. We had him in Dark Patterns forever, so we've seen his Batman. So to see some of these other characters, to see him drawing Superman and Lois, Etrigan, different versions of Lex, the art really carried a lot of this. I just wish someone would have done something different with these KO issues, or the fighting issues anyways, because they all settle down to the same thing. It's the Mortal Kombat Street Fighter 2 out of 3. You can kind of see who wins the first one, where it's going to go. This one's a little bit different with Etrigan winning first. I think most of them, they have a tell of whoever wins first tends to win the overall. But yeah, it's still pretty good.
That wasn't true in the first one, because in the Superman one, I think Superman lost the first round and then won 2 and 3.
Okay, gotcha. I have to go back because a lot of these are in and out, right? They enter and then leave. I
don't remember the other one I read to even tell. I can't even remember who the other one I read was. Like, I don't remember what the fight was. Never mind who won what round.
It was Lobo and Wonder Woman.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, see? But yeah, so I'll actually give this one a pretty high grade, all things considered. So this is a 7.5 as far as these fight issues go.
All right. Green Lantern issue 30, Legacy number 597. Jeremy Adams writing with Carmine D. Giandomenico on the R. And it's back crossover week, apparently, between this and Absolute Wonder Woman, because Green Lantern's in Gotham, and he calls on Batman, as you'd expect, with a Green Lantern-produced bat signal in the sky, which makes Batman pop up to talk to him. And, of course, like things aren't, always that wholesome between these two. Like they've had a bit of animosity over the years. But Green Lantern's there because he needs like a scientific mind, and then the other part of it is that he wants someone who's not that friends with him, like someone who will give him a really honest, cold, like accurate reading of what's going on with him. But this whole reading the Book of Oa and all this stuff from Krona kind of been beamed into his head, and he's seeing visions of his father and all this other stuff. He wants Batman's opinion on this, so they go to the Batcave. He runs some scans, all the rest of it. But of course they get interrupted with something that's going on in the city, so they end up going out together in the Batmobile, and we get a little bit of a plot of stuff happening.
I love their dynamic, and again, this is where Adams is really good at this dialogue stuff with Hal and Bruce, and it shows despite they lay out that they're kind of similar in that they both lost their dads in these traumatic ways, and they both become heroes. They could not be more different human beings in how they handle things. And just the way that Bruce is in the Batmobile, and Hal's just like, oh, cool. This looks like, like a jet cockpit format. And he just looks at him and goes, hands off. And he sits there, and you can just see Batman stewing. The way that the art comes through, the Giandomenico, you can just see kind of the light bouncing off of the eyes. Like, I don't think Bruce's eyes are red, but the red that's coming out of the cockpit, right, of the Batmobile. And the way that they're sitting there in the panel in between. Like there's just their body language is there, and it's those little moments that Adams is throwing in that really make this book fun to read.
Yeah, the character back and forth between the two of them is what really works. The plot ends up being like a giant like Joker head like attacks them, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Green Lantern ends up hitting him with a giant hammer, and he's like, "Well, like what's going on here?" So it ends up being like Green Lantern scans around, as does Batman with his fancy lenses, and they basically come to the conclusion that this kid is the epicenter of these. Well, I'll call them constructs, but not to confuse them with Green Lantern constructs. That's not exactly what they are. Although I was actually thinking for a second this was going to tie into the whole spectrum being all wonky. Although they kind of fixed that, I guess. But I thought it was going to be Lantern related because of these things appearing.
It reminded me of that World's Finest issue where the kid had the power to make these things like this, right? Where they had the big giant stuff. And it felt very reminiscent of that. I don't know if you remember that issue.
Vaguely.
But, yeah. But it was kind of the same where this kid, didn't have control. And here, I like what Adams does with this kid and why they're in Gotham.
Yeah, so they go over to this kid. A giant Killer Croc jumps out at them, but it's not really Killer Croc. It's just a figment of this kid's imagination. Like they go in, and there's other villains attacking Batman as he's getting towards the kid, and it all becomes this kind of like, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan goes over to talk to the kid and says, hey, these are all coming because they're manifestations of your fear. You're scared of all these villains because you live in Gotham, because Gotham sucks. You've just moved here. It's a scary place, but hey, I'll show you that things aren't as scary as they seem. And he puts like a funny Green Lantern like mustache on Batman to make the kid laugh, and basically says,
"Hey, a top hat. Don't forget the top hat."
And a top hat. But hey, I'll show you Gotham isn't quite as scary as you're making up in your head. So he takes this kid on like a Green Lantern construct roller coaster going around the city, and Batman comes too. So Batman, I love that in the wide panel of like them going around this giant roller coaster around the city, Batman's in the back seat with his arms folded as they're in the front, like streaming as you would.
He's determined not to have fun.
Yes. Yeah. So
the kid's at this Gotham hospital because he's sick, and this is the place that can handle him the most. But mom and dad can't afford to move, so he's stuck in Gotham by himself in this hospital. And all his friends had told him how scary it was because of all the the Batman's Rogues Gallery or whatever.
Specifically, I think they can't afford, like, they're both having to work to pay for the hospital bills, so he's kind of stuck here during that. So at the end of all this, not only have they helped with the fear a little bit, Hal sort of leans in and goes, hey, I happen to know someone rich in Gotham who owns this hospital that'll pay for all your medical bills to help out with your parents. And you just see Batman in the background just kind of like, like, just like, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure Bruce would have done that anyway, but the fact that Hal offered it up first without even saying something to him is just, you can tell us a little bit of like a coming from. But yeah, I mean, and afterwards Batman says, hey, you did a good job with that kid, but here's the thing, like, maybe you should actually let all these visions come in. There's physically nothing wrong with you, nothing's like causing any problems. Maybe you just have to let these visions like come in for you. And then the next issue is going to be Hal going to see Barry, seemingly. So, we had a Green Arrow issue last time. This was a Batman team-up issue. Next time we're getting a Flash. Or technically he's not the Flash anymore now, but same difference. Yeah. So, yeah. That's the whole thing. No, it's pleasant enough. I think I like this more than the Green Arrow issue because I thought the plot was a little bit more interesting, and it felt like there was more of a challenge between the two characters. Whereas, the Green Arrow one was like, hey, we're two friends and we're just going to fight these random robot things. Whereas this kind of fed a bit more into, because the kid seeing visions is not, or visions being created from him, feels a little bit more thematically in line with the idea of Hal seeing things in his head and not being able to control it. There's a bit more of a link there, I think. Yeah.
Well, and the fact that he's got to go to someone who's just not going to essentially put him over and just talk great things. He has to go to Batman and be like, no, this is what's up with you, because he needs to hear the actual truth behind it. And I do like that. And then just the whole thing about having to face fears too. That's both Batman and Hal, right? They just do it in different ways. So those two teaching this lesson to this kid, it also fits thematically. And then having to take that, but basically what they told the kid and apply it to Hal here. So yeah, real good. This is the first time I remember Adams writing Batman. I think he's pretty good at it.
Yeah, I can't think of another time. I got a laugh. One of my favorite lines of the whole book is when they first start talking to each other. I think it's when they go to the cave right at the start, and Hal says, hey, so how's it been? Any new Robins? That line did make me laugh a little bit.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And Giandomenico's art, is obviously very stylized. It looks like his art. I could tell within a page, like, oh, this is Domenico, isn't it? And then I looked and I was like, oh yeah, it is. And I think it works well for a lot of what's going on here. I think it's really good layouts. I do think he's maybe not the best artist to do Batman stuff. I don't know if he quite fits Batman as a character, his style, but the art is certainly not bad by any stretch, and like has a good solid look to it throughout. Because like we were saying, it's nailing all these little moments where Batman's reacting to something that Hal says. So it's very expressive. It's getting all those story points across quite well. And he seems to be having fun with the constructs and the various implementations of that. So
Giandomenico did do Heat of the Night, right?
That sounds
which was
right,
the Bruce. Yeah.
And I think I probably had that complaint as we did that entire book, was that he's not right for Batman.
Yep. That's what made me remember that, is I think I remember you saying that on the night as well. I think he's fine. He's not the strongest. It's definitely, I prefer more bombastic type stuff, and I don't necessarily think his Batman is very bombastic in that. But like you said, or we talked about the small moments, I think he really nails. But some of these bigger stuff with Batman, I don't know if he has the poses exactly down right, because I always associate Giandomenico with like the Flash emotion and that type of stuff. So it's just weird that his best Batman is standing still. And it seems contrary to what he's good at. So yeah, it's still a fun issue.
Yeah, what are you giving it?
I'm at 7.5.
Yeah, just a straight 7 for me. It's good. I had a good time. It's kind of this little like tour he's doing of like team up issues is just kind of a fun little change of pace from all the big Starbreaker, Need to Save the Universe stories that we were having before. So that's nice, and it feels very different from Green Lantern Corps, which is also cool. So they can be two different flavors of Green Lantern. So nice. The Flash, issue 28, legacy number 828, Christopher Cantwell and Mark Waid writing, with Vasco Georgiev on the art. So I didn't read this one either, because I decided no fight month issues. So on you go.
Gotcha. So this one has a lot more Flash in it than it does the fight. And I almost feel like the fighting stuff doesn't add up. It's a much better issue when it is Wally and Bart. But it starts with them coming through the speed force into, it's essentially before Barry becomes the Flash. So they're in Central City right before it happens. And the speed force has all the Omega energy coming through it. And Wally recaps everything that's happened in the last couple issues. Bart's kind of out of it because his powers have been stripped by the what do they call it, the Omega Force, or the speed, Omega Speed, or whatever. And so he's a little bit woozy. So they're like, oh, I need to get him help, but from where? And there's this really nice page where Wally talks about, he knows everything that had happened that night to Barry, and that how Barry Allen has kind of determined on what makes you the Flash, right? Everyone tries to live in his shadow because Barry is that guy, except for one person, and that's Jay Garrick. And Jay Garrick is fighting for the fate of the universe. And then it kicks into the fight stuff. And I really, really thought Waid was going to do something different. And it sets it off where it looks like Guy and Jay are going to start fighting, and Guy brings his fists back, and he goes to launch at Jay, and Jay's like, wait. And they never said anything. We have to fight. We just have to win. And he goes in because they're in Jay's, the lab that created Jay Garrick, right? The experiment. And he pulls out a checkers game. And he's like, look, man, let's just play checkers. Let the best man win. We come to find out that Guy's never learned how to play checkers, right? And so he gets frustrated and flips the table.
Whoa, 1 second here. Not having learned how to play chess, I understand. Chess has complex rules, different pieces move in different ways. Checkers is chess for dumb people. How has Guy not learned how to play checkers?
You just said it. So, right? So he keeps trying to make these moves that he can't make. And Jay's like, do you not know how to play checkers? And this when he flips the board, he's like, so assume you don't know how to play your stupid old man game. Right? So for Guy, it's an old people's game. That's why they're not playing it. And so then the fight starts happening. So Guy starts yelling at him and was like, you know what? You should just do the world a favor and retire. We don't need the Jurassic Society, which is, I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good slight to call the old members of the Justice Society, right? And he tells them that, hey, hell, if Wildcat knew when to call it quits, he'd still be alive, right? So they're pulling in from Lemire's stuff. And that's where Jay gets mad and he wings his hat at Guy. And then he starts running him into a circle. And Guy's like, no, we're just going to finish this now. And he creates this like buzzsaw construct that ends up cutting Jay in half, right? And so we get to the second round. We end up getting, I forget which timeline it's from, but it's where Jay Garrick just is the living Speed Force. And so they're in, it looks like Central City. And Guy takes the Red Lantern form, from his time there. And Jay essentially just wipes the floor with him because he's living Speed Force, but he lets Guy know, he's like, the red isn't what you're supposed to be. You're a Green Lantern through and through. The red's not a good fit for you. And he essentially fills up Guy with Speed Force energy into his ring to make it explode. And then it gets to this interlude, which again, I appreciate Waid for making this issue feel different, and Cantwell, I guess. And it's the standoff between Gorilla Grodd and Darkseid Booster. He tells him, you're no match. You're just, Gorilla Grodd. And he says, there's, no quorum, no chaos. The Time Trapper falls. The World Forger falls. Booster falls. And he says, you're wrong. I believe Booster remains. Right? So Gorilla Grodd's main problem is he believes in Booster Gold. Right? For whatever reason. And then Darkseid attacks him, and we see into the fight that's going on in KO. That dark side boosters puts us into Grodd, and we see Superman and Aquaman, Wonder Woman, one of the Hawks. Like they're all like not doing well. Like I don't think it's necessarily from any of the KO issues. It's just a representation. And then we get Lex in his issue getting a sense of what's going on, which I do like. It gets back to the fight stuff where this is where it really falls off for me, because it starts to get like every other of the KO fight issues. Guy ends up not taking a green or red. He takes that warrior, right, where he has the Vudarian. He can transform his body into different weapons. And Jay just comes out as classic Jay, holding this lightning bolt staff, and tells him he's gonna have to beat him for the greater good. Jay realizes that he doesn't have what it takes to beat Guy, because Guy has that killer instinct that Jay just doesn't have, right? Jay's been a good guy for too long, and his heart's just not in it. So Guy ends up, despite having all these weapons, he says that he has the entire Fuldarian lineage that goes back eons, and what is some old man to him. And he pins Jay against the wall with that lightning bolt staff, and then fires this bullet towards Jay. And Jay just tells him, do me a favor, just beat the tar out of Darkseid. And he says, you got it. And he fires the bullet, and it goes into Jay and ends up ending the KO. So now we got Lex moving on. We got Guy moving on, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Zatanna. I don't know Cyborg and Swamp Thing, nor Hawkman or Aquaman. So that's where we're at through this. And then we get back to the Flash stuff, where it goes into Central City. It's like a couple minutes later from where Wally and Bart were, and they're at Iris's house, and she's talking to somebody on the phone, talking about Barry, about he's a forensic scientist. They met at a crime scene, took him forever to ask to date, but he's so sweet. And there's a knock at the door, and it's Wally carrying Bart, and he goes, hey, Miss West, I've read a lot of your work. I need help. And he just leaves the kid there with Iris. Iris is like, who the hell are you? It's like, he goes to explain. He goes, I'll be back. Just trust me. And Iris is like, no, you're not just leaving this kid here. He goes, I'm sorry, Barry Allen's in grave danger. I gotta help him. And that's where the story leaves off. Georgiev's art during the fight stuff looks really good. He plays with a lot of the different forms really, really well. And each round does feel different. Like the backgrounds and all this, he does a very good job at making each feel very unique. But again, it's just a fight issue. Where this issue, I think, got me really well was Waid and Cantwell insisting still that it's still a Flash issue, and it's pushing that part of the story along about what's happening with the Omega Speed and Barry and Wally, and them having to get, essentially feels like timey-wimey shenanigans, that they're gonna have to stop him from becoming the Flash, because if they stop him being the Flash and the Speed Force isn't created, which then they can't have the Omega Speed, this, that, and the other. I do appreciate them pushing that story along. As for the KO stuff, super disappointed that Jay didn't go on, because I would have liked to have some, as much as I love Guy, having Flash representation there in the end would have been really cool. But yeah, again, just repetitive, and I'm glad we're done with these for the moment, and I don't have to see the heroes fight anymore.
The vote might mean we're not done with them completely, but we'll see.
Yep. But yeah, I'll give this a 7.
Okay. Justice League Red, this issue 5, Saladin Ahmed writing with Clayton Henry on the art. So this was a very interesting issue of this, I thought, because it kind of, like, obviously it was just cool seeing the team form. I was kind of interested in this weird group of characters that were kind of assembling. They're teasing Red Canaries kind of being a big deal. But I think the last couple issues felt a little bit like they were fine. They were solid enough, but it was very much just Red Tornado saying, "Hey, you have to go after Black Adam." He keeps reiterating this thing over and over again. Oh, I've seen the future. You know, the apocalypse is going to overtake Earth, and it's going to be a string of events that leads there. And it's maybe felt a little bit, not repetitive, but it's kind of stuck in the same beat for like a couple of issues. This issue really flipped it on its head by presenting Black Adam after a little bit of fighting, saying, hey, that idiot Red Tornado told you to come after me, didn't he? He's been filling your head with lies. And the cover is like Red Tornado and Black Adam playing chess. And it kind of introduced this idea of like, no, Red Tornado's not Red Tornado anymore. He's been taken over by something else, and he has manipulated you onto this. For example, it's kind of funny how you were free to go and be a part of this team, Baz, because your cousin was like set up to be arrested, but you never actually checked if he violated parole. It's almost like some computery type character get into the system and just flagged them as a parole violator. And it just raises this question of like, yeah, how much manipulating is Red Tornado or whatever's controlling Red Tornado has done. So we spent half the issue with Black Adam making his case here, and there's a little bit of fighting still with like Dead Man trying to like jump out at him. He gets into the fight. Black Adam's able to throw him away, and it seems like he's been manipulated by Red Tornado because he gave him a chess piece, a pawn, and that pawn's allowing him to be corporeal and talk to people. Unlike, because we had that question. That was something we were asking before.
Even throughout, because when he first attacks Black Adam, right, he comes from out of nowhere, like, and you just see the hands come out, and Black Adam can hear him, and he's being able to like not fully possess him. Like there's a struggle, and Black Adam fights back, and I was just like, what if this is not Dead Man? And then we find out that the whole pawn thing, and I'm like, okay, so what's up with that? Because Dead Man's always had that curse that the living can't see him. Very, very different circumstances. Like Ananda Parbat, I think Nightwing could, right? As of recently, as long as he was in the gates there. And then so for whatever Red Tornado did to, bypass the curse that Dead Man has, it's definitely making me wonder what the hell's going on with Red Tornado.
Yeah, because I think part of it is that they imply that he's losing his humanity side, so it's just the computer side left over. But I think Black Adam does clearly imply that some third party has infected him in some way. And the pawn he's been given apparently was his lucky like item before his accident. He actually did use this before. But it makes me wonder if it can bypass a curse. Then it makes me think that the entity that's inside Red Tornado's on that similar level as whatever cursed him. So I'm curious to see where we go with that. But it raises this question of like, do we believe Black Adam rather than Red Tornado? So it's like we're kind of caught between two people who might be playing us. And I think that's added an extra cool layer to this, where I'm like, it's reinvigorated the story, I think, to be like, okay, this has got a bit more juice. Like when it started to feel like it was maybe being a little bit one note, this has kind of jazzed it back up again to being like, oh, okay, all right, now they're trying to question between the two parties who's the bad guy, and we don't want to be pawns, and obviously the symbolism of the pawn being there. We want to try and figure out if we've been played, so let's go back and talk to Red Tornado, which is what they're on their way back to do, on their way. And there's a little bit of bonding here where Baz and Cyborg realize they're from similar, they're both from Detroit or the Detroit area, so there's a little bit of bonding there. Yeah. And
they're both kind of car guys, right? Like Cyborg's always, adjusting things within himself and other things, and we know that Simon has his.
One is a guy who likes cars. The other one's a guy who is effectively a walking car.
Yes, right. And so just that they're bonding on that kind of stuff too. And I was like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. Cyborg and Simon would have a lot in common, outside of the superhero stuff. So yeah, that was a little fun. I also like them talking to Power Girl and how like they've nominated her the leader because she's the one that's taking charge.
Yeah, they ask her. Well, one of them says, "Hey, you make the call, Power Girl," or calls her boss, and she's like, "Wait, why are you calling me boss? Because you're kind of in charge." Yeah. And they all look to her to make the decision, and she does clearly decide to go back to confront Red Tornado. And that's where some of the bonding happens, but they get attacked. Like a portal opens up and a bunch of red entities come out. They're not quite like Red Lantern constructs, but they're kind of like, they're more robotic, but they're in that kind of same vein of like, this is clearly just a bunch of like villains who we're clearly going to win against. Like, these are not going to beat us, and whoever sent them knew they weren't going to beat us. It's just to slow them down or whatever.
It's It's very funny that they're the color red because they're basically red shirts.
Yeah, yes, they're red shirts, effectively. Yeah.
Right. But they're also people that they face through these 5 issues. Right. There's those robot creatures from that planet that they went to. It's the Tabernacle of Blood that had Red Canary.
Yeah, ones like that.
It's some of the soldier guys.
Yeah, they're kind of a mix and match.
The dragon creature.
Yeah, the various things they fought. Yeah, no, you're quite right. So when they get back and they're like yelling for Red Tornado, like they're obviously at this point they're mad. They want to talk to him, and get answers for what's going on. So they're like, hey, like, so whatever these things were built out of the same sort of material that Red Tornado has, and notably when Red Tornado starts talking to them, it's in these bubbles that are kind of different and they're kind of on their own, kind of giving you that sense of like the omnipotent like voice, like the AI that's taking control of the station. And it reveals that he's now the Crimson Cloud, and it's just like 2 sort of lights that look like eyes and a lot of red cubes that vaguely make a head. But it's very, very daunting and it looks kind of evil. So I guess the question I would have, now I get that they've just come to confront him here, so they've maybe not had the chance to do it yet. But surely in the next issue, the question of why wouldn't we just go tell the Justice League this now?
Right.
Is worth, contemplating, right? So.
For sure. Well, and just the fact too that the Crimson Cloud, Red Tornado, that type of thing. It's almost like him spreading himself too thin, becoming the like kind of control system for the Watchtower. This Red Tornado I'm talking about. It's left him open for a takeover of this, and it's almost like the idea of the Cloud being this disconnected from humanity. So I almost wonder if they have to redo a body for him. Like that's why they're not going to go to the Justice League, because they need to save Red Tornado and essentially talk him down and restore that piece of humanity to him.
Yeah, I think it may just be more of a physical.
He's in everything.
It could be more of a physical thing though, where they're just trapped on this station next issue and they can't get out, or that's what the issue's about, is because Crimson Cloud is now going to try and, maybe not kill them, but keep them trapped, try and manipulate them more, whatever it is, and they have to fight back. We could have like a sort of like battle against an AI opponent kind of thing next issue. But that's interesting. So yeah, and in Black Adam's the way he normally is, where he's like, yes, I knew you were coming, and yes, I could be consuming worlds to becoming more powerful. I could take on the entire Justice League, but that's not what's happening here. You've been fooled.
I don't want to. Yeah, and him talking about that thing, the what was it called, the ritual. To he's like, no, that's for like the dredge of worlds. That would require destroying the Earth, and I kind of like living on the Earth, so why would I do that?
This is home.
I like that was his reasoning.
Yes, I will do anything to protect Kandak, and Kandak is on Earth. Therefore, Earth is off the table for destruction. Thank you very much.
Yep. And yeah, so I did like that. I liked it. It flipped over the idea of Black Adam being this big bad guy with the kryptonite sword and that the wand of Anubis or whatever it was. And he's just kind of like, y'all are being played. I'll put these away now. But it's like, but you still have them. Like, I love. He's like, this man carries a kryptonite sword, guys. We're gonna let this stand. But yeah.
Yeah, I like that they're kind of
pretty decent issue. Not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I like that they're forming into a team by appointing a leader and feeling more like they're getting to know each other. Like, but that's like separate from Red Tornado putting them together. I almost like the idea that they're going to form into a real team, and that's what's going to actually defeat Red Tornado. Is that they've actually become a team as opposed to just an assortment of characters that he's trying to manipulate. So I like that side of it.
Yeah.
So no, this is probably my favorite issue of this since like the first couple. So I think it really. Was the shot in the arm to kind of space it up, which was quite nice. So, and maybe that was just a case of they had to hold off on this reveal until now. But I think a lot of the more interesting ideas are coming out of the book now via this issue. So pleased with it. Clayton Henry art is still Clayton Henry art. I don't feel passionate by it by any means.
No, I do like the space action sequence though. I think a lot of the direction he gives the people, there's a lot of motion and fluidity. Like the way that he draws Power Girl flying through there, her hair's kind of all over the place, her cape's all over. There's that one where Baz is taking out the dragon there, and she's doing like a looping dive. Power Girl is, and so I think that stuff looks really good. Kind of when they're all kind of standing around talking, it's not to his strengths. And that's kind of the whole
that's what we've
first
said.
part
of
the issue.
With Henry, is that he's good at layouts and action and like momentum, but he's like standing around talking scenes always kind of suffer from not being, his faces just don't have the level of, I guess detail's the word I'll use, even though sometimes like that feels like a bad word to use though, because I feel like some artists are good at having less detail but being more expressive. So it's not necessarily always a detail issue, but in this case, that's how it makes me feel. It feels like it's lacking like detail. It's too clean.
Yeah, his kind of faces look a lot of like, you can tell there's the expressions there, but they're not as strong as they could be. Like I'm looking at some of the ones like with Power Girl where she's side-eyeing Simon and Simon's off panel. Like that's not as clear. Like she's side-eyeing, but her face is kind of blank. So it gets the point across, but it could be better. Yeah. But yeah. And then what's funny is the Crimson Cloud has no face. So it'll probably be the most expressive, in the next issue.
Oh, maybe in that way he's perfect for this book because we're doing something that doesn't quite exactly have a face.
Look, I know you're not a big fan of Tron, but I want to see the Crimson Cloud as the Master Control program. Like it's the Red Tornado. Give me that swooping tornado-esque kind of look.
But it's all made of cubes.
It's just a face. Yeah, it could be, but yeah, give me that kind of look. I would like, but yeah, not expecting this to be a story kind of that gets into Red Tornado's humanity, because that was the first story that I ever really read for Red Tornado, was that Brad Meltzer Justice League run that gets into Red Tornado becoming a human, and like, is he still the Red Tornado? Because isn't he just an android? And here now it's that humanity is gone because he has no grounding, right? He is just the computer, and now it's almost like, and again, it could be because of people manipulating whatever, a different entity or whatever, but him without that grounding, he becomes something else, and that something else here is the Crimson Cloud. So I really like that through line. I was not expecting that from this, because I remember when this book was announced, we just thought, oh, they all kind of wear red except for Simon. I guess that's why they're Justice League red, but there's more of that Red Tornado vibe going on here. So.
And will this, if there's a third party infecting him, then is that also a red villain? Like, is that going to be a red outfit, or I mean, hell, it could be an alien. It may just be all red, but like questions abound. So no, I'm still very curious to see where this is going, and it's fun kind of unwrapping it a little bit. And the more they feel like a real team, the more I'm probably going to get invested in them as characters. So what are you giving Justice League Red, Matt?
It was a straight 7.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to go with 7.5 on this one. I think I'm only going to call it great just because the art's still Clayton Henry, and that doesn't wow me as such. But I think this issue definitely injected like a really cool story element into it, and I'm intrigued a bit more so again. So good stuff. We'll see how that goes. Justice League Unlimited issue 14, Mark Waid writing with Dan Mora on the art. You may proceed, Matt.
Yep. Yeah, so this actually does more for pushing the mainline KO story than I've seen, because we've been stuck in the fight month stuff.
Interesting.
So here we find out.
To be clear, this was the one that I was maybe going to read. Like, this was kind of teetering because it's not a fight issue month issue. So I was like, oh, maybe I will read this one still, and then it just kind of fell through the cracks at the end. But
yeah, so this was one I almost didn't read, but I was like, I won't do that to Pete. Here I am now, carrying that on. The Watchtower side of things is Red Tornado, funnily enough, is back in his body. So I wonder if that has something to do with Justice League Red, because that all takes place before, right? And basically the Watchtower gets cut off from everything else here, because you have Neuron, right? Is manipulating all these other villains, and he's made this like church that Red Tornado sends a team down to, and that team is, let me see, because there's a lot of team stuff in this. We got Mary Marvel, Dr. Colt, Martian Manhunter, and Kid Flash, and they go in and they find this big green church in the middle of in the middle of Oklahoma City that is being destroyed. So like there's this big green force field, this big green church, and it looks like it's dedicated to Neron. And there's someone administering like a baptism to this guy, and he tells him that he's forever saved, and he looks up and says thank you. And administering this thing is Atomic Skull, and Wally Kid Flash runs over there and knocks him down, and there's this big explosion. And then there's all these other villains there that are like, oh, we're the holy army of Neron. By the end of the issue, the Watchtower ends up being compromised, and it shuts down all evacuation routes. So everything that they were doing to get people off now is halted. It says, unless we can, who is then? There's one of the challengers. It's like, unless we can figure out a problem fast, no one has a prayer of surviving. Right. So that's what's going on there. So it feels like in some of the other KO issues, in the fighting issues, we're getting the thing that the Watchtower, everything that's happening with Darkseid is on one. And now here on Earth, all of the support the Watchtower was giving to help the Titans evacuate and all of that stuff is going just as badly. And now that stopped. Neron is running his games here by converting people during the end of days, right? And then down in hell, we have, the Terrific 10, which is now the 7. And we got Dr. Fate, Aquaman, which is the Peter David one, right? Dr. Fate from the future. We got Batman Beyond, but they still call him Tim, which still think is a mess up. It just easily could have been Terry McGinnis. We got Electric Superman, Owl Woman, and Goldhawk with Mr. Terrific, and they're walking through this dark. And it's this wall is just made out of souls. Like, it is something straight out of a horror movie. There's just faces in the walls. They get startled. Aquaman starts to sense like water in the near, and it's the helmsman of the River Styx. I think it's Chirani. I never learned how to properly pronounce it, but he's the one that you have to give the coins to get across the river in Greek mythology. And Mr. Terrific's like, oh, I thought about this. We're going to the underworld. I figured we'd run into him. So he has these coins, and Charon won't take them. He goes, you can't be serious. I'm not just going to take coins. I need something personal from each of you. And so Batman Beyond gives him a one of his batarangs, and Owl Woman gives her a cryo gun, which is like, this is pretty necessary in hell, but I guess that's the point of this. Goldhawk gives a nth metal medallion. Dr. Fate gives bracers. And when it gets to Mr. Terrific and Superman, they don't really have anything to give. So they give up concepts that they believe in to Charon, which is super weird. He gives up, Mr. Terrific gives up his sense of justice and fair play. So his fair play tattoos just disappear. Like, they go off his skin and they're gone. And the only thing that Superman has to give is his sense of hope. And then so that's what he takes. So there's this really cool scene where the helmsman reaches this skeletal hand out, and you see this like white figure come out of Superman and disappear into wisps. And then now Superman's depressed. He's like, all I feel is emptiness. Everything's meaningless. Nothing matters. And they set adrift down the river. And this is when a lot of the other stuff happens. And, they end up on this boat ride, and they're like, it's too quiet. Like, we're in hell. This should be a lot more difficult. And they talk about that in all these different mythologies across the world, that, this is something that everybody has to cross, this river. And as they are saying this, it doesn't become so still anymore, as this big sea serpent-like creature comes out of the River Styx. And Aquaman runs in there, and he defeats it, but not before it spears him through. And now we're down from 7 to 6. And it leaves the boat leaves them at this dock. They've made it through. They paid a price. and Mr. Terrific looks completely just defeated as they're on the other side of this river, but now they're another man down. So the Watchtower is screwed on this final page. The Watchtower is screwed. Mr. Terrific has no hope left, just like Superman. And then they're having issues at this Church of Neron in Oklahoma City. And yeah, it's just not looking good for the Justice League Unlimited. So yeah, man, I'm until KO is over and this gets an identity again, I think I'm out, because this book just feels like it's just going through motions. Like, it's trying. Waid and Mora, the art looks great. Like, everything on here, like that scene of Superman losing his hope. If it's not for Mora's art, it would be funny. Because, like, again, he's like, now Superman's depressed and he's hopeless, but Mora draws everything with the body language so well. Like, you didn't need him saying that to get what was going on.
What does he look like? Does he look like George Michael in Arrested Development, walking away sad, like all hope's gone now?
You're not far off. Like, his head is down. Yep. And so, yeah, this book just doesn't have an identity. And it hasn't since it started. When you start to look, like, the only point of Justice League Unlimited, it felt, was to set up KO, right? Because we had the whole, I forget even what they were called, but it ended up being the Injustice League, or whatever we called them, the Legion of Doom.
It was like,
right?
Yeah, the group of villains that just turned out to be all the Legion of Doom and Hoods, which were partly a time-traveling Grodd, which tied into World's Finest, and then quite quickly after that, it became just a couple of tie-ins to KO, and now we're just doing KO tie-ins right now, so, yeah.
And that's all this is seeming to be, and, like, I know the point is all these characters are meant to feel expendable, right? But it just feels like you can see the writing on theirs. As soon as the Sea Serpent came up, you're like, oh, Aquaman's done for. You know, and at least it was a lot more ceremonious in this one than it was in some of the other ones in the last issue, right? But yeah, just in a week that was so stacked as this one, you know, I got to this last night and I was like, I don't really want to read this one. And then I read it and again, I feel bad because it's not bad. It's just, I don't see the point. The last issue felt like fluff to me, which is why I didn't want to read this. It felt like nothing of meaning was going to come out of it. But and it's very subjective in a lot of ways. But I just sometimes it's really nebulous to say what feels like it matters and what doesn't. But this, to me, just unquestionably, last issue felt like this does not matter. This just feels like doing stuff just to fill out more comic book pages until this event's over. In the same way that Night Fight just feels like, hey, there's just random shit we're going to do until this is over. Yep. So. Yeah. Well, just, I feel like, too, there's not a point, like, of focus, because they're trying to focus on the Watchtower and Earth and Hell. If it was just the whole story in Hell and we were developing these concepts a little bit more, like, what's the point of going into Hell if Earth is screwed anyways? Like, shouldn't they be up on there trying to manage things, you know? And there's that conflict there if we should be elsewhere, not down here. I think that would be a lot more fun to read, but trying to split it between all these different ones, there's so much going on, and it's hard to care about any of the stories, because I feel like we're not getting enough of one. So yeah, it's a bummer, but you know, so I think until at least KO is over, I think I'm fine skipping this one, you know, because this was the one out of the fighting things. I got Hayden Sherman art in one, and I got Mark Waid right in the other. So at least there was that. This just felt like you said, fluff. It's just there. So I'll to move on. I'll rate this. I'll give this 6.5.
Okay. Every month, patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can make me read a book of your choosing at one of the higher tiers. And in this case, Matt also is made to read this one. This is Green Arrow issue 22 we're looking at today. Working through the current run, but obviously about a year behind, give or take. So yeah, last issue, Oliver got attacked by one of the freshwater killers, and we pick up with that here. Although we do start, as we have with all these issues, with the sort of flashback. This one being clearly the grown-up version of the kid who's been in a lot of these flashback stories. And seemingly he is the ringleader who started momentum on getting all these victims together to do something about what happened to them. He shows the original commercial that their families all saw back in the day to move to this town. Like, hey, this is a new affordable housing community near Star City. Come and live here. Freshwater. And then he talks about how, yeah, I was diagnosed with this, this thing when I was a kid, and you've all had different issues. And yeah, they wrote a check to everyone to pay us all off, like pay everyone's families off for like what they did. But like, I didn't see any fancy cars outside at this meeting. I didn't see any like Rolex watches on anyone in here. Everyone just had to use that money to pay off like numerous hospital bills, and like, it's not improved anyone's life as a result. So it's not about just getting money compensation for what happened to us. So it's clearly building up to this idea of like, we're all going to become the freshwater killer. You assume so anyway. But you see that one woman who we already saw as one of the killers is in the audience at this thing. Yep. So this presumably is recently, in the timeline. This is maybe just a couple months ago or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and just the thing that they want justice, right? Like, yeah, they wrote the check, but nothing was made right, and we can do that. And yeah, he definitely has this kind of, not a mad look in his eye, but definitely a determined look. Yeah. And I can't blame him. Like, we see him go after these people, and we understand why, but it's still, I like that it's building a conflict between him and Oliver about doing what's right. But when you've lost everything, what is right? Because he talks about his mom died of breast cancer. So now, that's another thing that might have been attributed to this, and it completely ruined their lives based off of people
almost certainly lying. So the only obviously the art in this book's been fantastic. It still is here. There's just one little nitpick I'll have on like the second page is there's one panel that's looking sort of at him speaking through like the window at the door, and I feel like the head on him just looks very different to every other panel in this scene. They almost looks like a different person. He looks much younger in this like side shot, and I don't think he's meant to be. I think it's just like, it is just a sort of, maybe a flub's a harsh word, but it does just feel like a bit of a flub versus everything else. So yeah, regardless of that though, everything looks great. Like you say, the expressions and his determination, and then them all being convinced and getting teary-eyed is very good. But Oliver does the whole "I'm a dumb rich man" routine to the cops because they're arresting this freshwater killer that attacked him, and he's like, "Freshwater? What's that? Killings? What's going on? Me. I've got
freshwater. What's it?
I've got rich things to go do." And the detective, walks off, calling him a rich piece of shit or whatever. So it's just a fun little sequence. But he does get like, hey, where's the primary detective? You say I have to talk to her. Where's she? And for some reason, like maybe this is a little far-fetched, the detective is like, oh, she's investigating the town of Freshwater, if you really have to know. It does feel like maybe a little bit of a stretch that he would actually offer that information up. But yeah, I feel like he could have gotten that information some other way. But hey, this gives Oliver his mission here. So he goes to his bike, and we get a great several pages of silence of him putting his goggles on, his hood up, driving in his motorbike through the rain. All looks really good. We see her, the detective at Freshwater with her dog, looking through. And again, a lot of this is fairly quiet. And she gets basically the creepy horror movie treatment here of like all these people in the gas mask showing up with the red eyes, all kind of like showing in the silhouettes. Really, really cool. All wearing
the same jacket, so they must have got that at a, on discount. Because they're all wearing them. But no, it's very Children of the Corn, and just even the shot, the way that Montos draws in the bottom of that page, where she's lit up by the one street lamp. Right? And so we see the light, and then she's surrounded by them coming out of the darkness. Like, and
then she sicks the dog on one of them, but then like one of them punches the dog, and it goes flying backwards. And I actually thought the silhouette at the bottom of that page, I wasn't sure if they were continuously beating the dog up, as if they were like just like mob justice on a dog. And I thought too, this is dark. And then I was like, oh no, I think it's her they're beating up, which it isn't much better, but like they felt really harsh when it was the dog. So and cut to Oliver speeding in the rain on his motorbike. All that art looked great. he does get to the town, and he's kind of like looking through. The dog does stumble up, and he looks a little bit bloody and beaten, but he is okay. So they didn't wait too long to tell you the dog's not in too bad shape. Dog's okay.
Yeah.
But Oliver's
I felt bad.
Yeah, on you go.
Yeah. I was gonna say I felt bad being more worried about the dog than the detective. So I was like, oh man, I hope the dog's okay. Forgetting like the detective was there too.
I think it's because she's probably going to be okay, whereas the dog might be the red shirt to sell you how dark this is. But you even hear them bickering with each other, like, oh, you didn't have to hit the dog. It's like, it was me or him. So clearly there's some infighting about how they treated the dog amongst themselves. But she like wakes up and they're like dragging her into a building, and she's kind of hazy, obviously. Oliver's looking around the empty streets, and this is where it does the slow, like the titles where it's like DC Comics presents, Chris Condon and Montos, and he's looking around and he gets an idea, so he fires some arrows up like a street light or an electrical pole, and he climbs them like a ladder, so that he can look across in the distance, and he sees the one building that's got lights on, and he's like, oh, there it is. I've found where she's going to be. And they said something to her as well as they were dragging her about, oh, we're taking you to the place where you need to learn a lesson. You're going to school. So they're in the town school building, presumably. So, yeah. It's
so creepy. And we all know these are just regular people.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And it makes it even more effective the way that they're talking here. It's like, oh, we're taking you to school. You need to learn a lesson. And you're just like, oh, man. And yeah, despite being so human, they're lacking humanity in these last couple pages.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that stuck out to me the most about this is how creepy like the town is, and how like them becoming this boogeyman group of the town is how effective it is. Both in them like jumping out at her and attacking her, but also just like the eeriness of how quiet it is when Oliver gets there. And this idea that okay, this one building's lit up, so he's got the location, so that's what we presumably are going to start next issue with. Aside from the flashback, because they've all started with flashbacks, so I assume we'll do that again next time as well. But the atmosphere is kind of the big thing here more than anything. Obviously, the flashback here, is filling in some blanks, really setting up that this kid that we've been focusing on is kind of important to the overall thing. He's not just one example; he is the example that leads to all this. But the atmosphere of the town and the creepy vibes are off the charts, and that's the kind of the big winner here for me.
I like how he goes in, as he goes into town, there's that big sign that says the freshwater environmental cleanup area, do not enter, right? So, they put that up after the fact, and then he goes past the school that this started at. That was like the first panel. Yeah,
it makes me think of
introduced to in the story.
In Chernobyl, when they hear that like literally like other countries like France and Italy are pulling people off the streets in case the cloud like comes by and like carries some of this harmful radiation, and then like Stellan Skarsgård looks out the window at Chernobyl and sees children running around, and it's like, maybe we should have evacuated this area already. This is a little bit like just the negligence is so extreme, it's unreal. So horrific, you might say. The artist guard, I mean, we keep saying this every issue, but Montos is just killing it. Like
Montos.
If anything, like, the scene of Oliver talking to the detective and acting all goofy, like, I don't know what's going on, I'm a dumb billionaire. Like, that is like probably the weakest part of the book, just because it's the part of the book where it's not just laying on the it's not that it looks bad, it looks great. You've got the police lights kind of lighting the scene up, so there's a nice playing of colors there, which is really cool. But you do have that one contrivance, like the way the detective just offered up where she's investigating did feel a little bit like just like, oh, that's just to make things easy. Like, that doesn't feel like something that a detective would really do. Like, where's your partner? Well, she's over here doing this. No, like that doesn't make any sense.
I feel like in the real world they'd be like, why do you want to know? What's it to you? Type stuff. That said, I do love the bottom panel where he says, can't say the same for him. He caught me on leg day. Fists were jonesing for a workout. And the way that Montos draws him, just looking like a total goober.
Yeah. And the detective's reaction as well, where he just sort of is rolling his eyes like, is this guy being serious? Like,
yeah, sure. Yeah. So real good stuff. I'm surprised that we didn't get to this story sooner. Like, it's taken us this long, because this is really good.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, yeah. The pacing's incredible. And I think even the cliffhangers get a creepy vibe to it. It's like, oh, is he going to get there in time? No, I think he is, but it does make me wonder, like, just how cult-like this group have formed. And it is interesting because, like, we can sympathize with what happened to them. What happened to them was wrong. It was, monstrous. But they are acting like absolute psychopaths right now. This feels like this is beyond just vigilante justice. This is like creepy horror movie cult shit.
Well, like, even if they kill all the people that had to deal with this, that's not going to make anything better. Like, it's not going to bring any of the stuff. It's not going to give them what they need to heal themselves. Right? So at a point, then it just becomes about vengeance and not justice. And I feel like it originally started as this thing for justice. So I wonder if we get into that it's even corrupted, what they had done. It's even corrupted that.
I also think we're already getting a taste with the dog conversation that, like, not every member is necessarily as extreme as each other. There's maybe a little bit of a gradient of, like, how in deep some of them are, even though they're all party to this. So I wonder if we explore that a little bit in the coming issues. But it's good stuff. Matt, what are you giving Green Arrow 22?
I'm going to say 9.
Oh, I think I'm going to go 8.5. I think it's close to the 9. Just that contrivance in the and that one scene maybe, and is the only thing kind of holding it down just a touch. But the vibes are excellent. So no, really good stuff. All right. So our Patreon book for me is Gideon Falls issue 8. I'm on now of this, and this stuff is really starting to feel like it's trying to connect some dots and bring stuff together. Last issue, we had the sheriff remembering the bus driver was the one that was around when her brother was taken, and we had Norton being carted off to an asylum by an evil doctor, seemingly. This issue starts with a flashback to Norton in, like, a foster home with a nun who, or a foster, there's a school, really. It's just like a religious boarding school kind of thing. Presumably after he was found in the city, and he's basically hearing a voice, and this voice is represented in a red speech bubble. And I've always said, the red's a big part of this book and how important it is whenever red comes up. So he gets into trouble because his, like, lunch gets thrown off the table, and the nun's like, oh, we don't tolerate this here, like, you're going to go down and think about what you've done in the darkness of the basement. And he's begging not to go, but the voice in the red just keeps saying, yes, come to me, come to the loneliness, come to the shadows, and that kind of thing. And there's just some phenomenal art here where this kid's cowering, young Norton's cowering in the room, and you see off in the corner in the darkness this, like, demonic face that we've seen before just staring out at him. You'll never be able to stop until you find me. You're going to find me in the rubbish, in the darkness, in the trash, and it's going to bring you to me. That's what this is all about. And this transitions to the same face in the corner, the shadows in the corner of the padded cell that adult Norton's in now, that he was put in at the end of last issue. So the transition here is fantastic. And he screams and he begs to get let out, but the orderly's like, no, we're putting you to sleep. And the panel ends with, like, Norton in a straitjacket drilling on the floor. So it's really depressing and dark. So that's just, like, the aftermath of what happened, and it's, like, seeing, like, how much this, like, voice has been lingering. And it does also make you question, like, wait, if this thing wants you to build the barn, should you be doing it? Because it's kind of evil and scary. But maybe that's the tragedy here, is that the voice has, like, convinced him this is what he feels like he needs to do, regardless. Meanwhile, the priest character is giving his sermon at church. But in the middle, as he's, like, talking about how this town's went through a tragedy, blah, 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 he basically zones out, and he looks up, and all he sees is a million images of Norton, right? And it's all the things we've seen in the previous issues of Norton doing stuff. But all of them, it's one of those things where all the images kind of collage to make an image of themselves. And that image that they make is him drilling on the floor in the straitjacket in the mental hospital. And he's really confused. And then the priest, like, has this sequence where it's almost like he's living out a memory of a previous priest. And I say that because, and this is weird, because up until now I have said I think the Norton stuff, because it's in a city that's also called Gideon Falls, must be in the future of a timeline, right? And the stuff with the priest and the sheriff must be in the past. Or at the very least, I don't know, like some weird, like maybe Norton's like jumped to the future or something, I don't know. But it looks like a much older church, so it definitely indicates this is the past, maybe a long time ago in the past, relatively speaking. And the priest that he's now kind of like embodying is like he's got a mustache, and some people come in sit with guns saying, hey, like, you know, like someone's, this character we're looking for, what was his name? Abel LaCroix, he's missing, father, we can't find him. We have to find him. And these guys have all got guns, like 3 guys come in and they've got like old timey hats on, one guy's got big sideburns. It's like, we have to act now. If he kills Abel like he's killed the others, that'll make 13 murdered in Gideon Falls in less than a month. We have to find him. We have to save him, kind of thing. We have to stop more innocents from getting hurt. So, you know, like, we know who the killer is. And then it's like, you don't understand, Sheriff. We finally understand who the killer is. And then he says, it's Norton. Which made me do like a double take. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the hell is happening now? Because this is clearly the past, and this is like a wooden church. This is something that's a bit more primitive. And he yells out, the killer is Norton Sinclair, and our priest from the future sees all this, hears it, and then when he comes back out of it, he's in like a red panel, and then he realizes he's back in his church. But when the sheriff comes in and says, hello, are you okay, father? He's like, wait, I was just giving a sermon, what's going on? And he's like, and she's like, it's Wednesday. And he's like, wait, what happened during my sermon? Like, you know, and it kind of sounds like maybe he just zoned out in the middle of it and they all just kind of left or whatever. But he's had this kind of like weird time loss where he's like, no, this was like I was in a memory. And like, he can't really explain it. And like, she's talking about her realizing about the bus driver being there when her brother went missing and all that. So she's telling him about that. But he does just kind of casually at one point say, hey, does the name Norton Sinclair mean anything to you? And the sheriff's like, nope, never heard of him. So it's like, okay, this is wild. Whatever we're doing here and how these two stories connect between the two things is starting to really be teased. Now that one of the characters in the small town version of Gideon Falls is starting to like see memories of apparently a Norton like being a killer in the past. Really wild stuff. So anyway, she explains all this about the bus driver. And he's like, hey, did you investigate him back in the day? Well, not you were a kid, but like, was he investigated? And he's like, yeah, it turns out he had an alibi. In fact, he was playing like poker with the sheriff at the time, the night that my brother disappeared. But I'm going to go back out and like check the house and stuff. Do you want to come with? And he's like, are you deputizing me? And she's like, I just thought a fresh set of eyes could do some good. And he's like, all right, I'll go get my jacket. But that's when he asks about the name, and like, she's like, yep, never heard of him. So meanwhile, back to the Norton story. Dr. Zhu comes to the hospital and wants to see him. She won't be let in. In fact, the evil doctor character, Dr. Kadri, is like, no, you won't be seeing him again. In fact, you're lucky you're keeping your medical license given of how inappropriate you've been with him. And she's like, what are you talking about? How have I been inappropriate? Is it any more inappropriate than you beating down a door to come and kidnap him? And he's like, oh, come on, we caught you together. You were very close. You know exactly what's been happening. You've had a physical relationship. And she hasn't really. Maybe there's like an attraction there. Maybe she's starting to care about him, but there's not actually been any like intimacy of any kind. At least not yet. So he's like, hey, no, you're not going to have this. And again, the layouts here are fantastic. Like, it starts off as simple, like rectangular boxes, but in the second page, as he's walked past her, so he's kind of talking with his back to her, we get like this super Dutch angle kind of like half like page where the entire like diagonals like split, and it's like her looking over her shoulder at him. Really good stuff. But he indicates that this is where he belongs. I'm getting a lot of Hugo Strange vibes from this guy. Like, that's what this doctor's reminding me of, is Hugo Strange, if I was to compare him to something. But once again, we have Norton in the straitjacket in the padded cell, but it's split down the middle and transitions to him as a kid again. And the red voice is saying, hey, you need to look at discarded things. You have to look at, this is where the real secrets are. Don't be afraid. And he looks at his hand, and young Norton's got a key in his hand. And it's like basically sort of, I don't know if that's maybe the key to the barn, or I think it's just the key to get out of the basement that he's been trapped in. But it's like, hey, send him on his path. back to the priest and the sheriff. They go to this, this little house, this little hut in the middle of nowhere, and the sheriff just kicks the door in. But they talk about what happened here and whatever else. And the priest floats. Oh, maybe I should ask your dad about this Norton Sinclair character, since he just knows a lot about the town. And she's like, yeah, I mean, if he was ever someone who lived here, like, he'll know about him. He knows everything about this town. But she's like, hey, so this thing you had in the church, was it like a vision? And he's like, nah, it was more like a memory. So he's even sensing that this was more of something that like happened before. He even says it was like I was looking at someone else's memory, specifically. So that ties into what happens next, though, because as they're looking around this crime scene, he has like another like vision / memory. It's just a little one, but he basically sees like a previous figure, like the bus driver probably, over at the wall, like where like there's something hidden behind the tile, and he says, "Hey, sheriff, look over there." And sure enough, there's something there. The tile comes off, and there's like a box in the wall, and it's like a shoebox, and it's like, so either maybe the priest like has some abilities that are developing, or there's some connection to this town that he's sort of tapping into in some way. But this is now the second time he's seen something that's kind of like proven to be some kind of memory. Well, I guess the first one's not proven yet, but it very much seemed like a memory. This one's like, no, here's proof. He saw this guy hide something here, and it's here. And this is the end of the issue, but is what they see inside this box. He opens the box, and it's basically just a collection of loose photographs. And he picks up a photograph. And he says, "Hey, sheriff, who is this?" And she's like, "I have no idea." And the photograph is adult Norton wearing the face mask that we've seen him wearing for like most of the issues up until this point. Which is weird, because adult Norton is in a city called Gideon Falls, which I thought was in the future. But there's also a character named named Norton Sinclair, who was killing people in Gideon Falls, seemingly in the past. This is definitely a head scratcher, and now I'm thinking, is this like Gideon Falls in two different dimensions? That's entered my mind. I'm also thinking, is it still the future, but these photographs are from the future, and these photographs will come back through time in some way? Is the barn kind of separate from space and time, so like if you go into the barn, you can come back out of it in a different time? Like, these are all the ideas rummaging through my head. I genuinely don't like have an inkling as to which way it'd lean yet, but this definitely feels, it really feels though like it's trying to like start to like tease the connections between the two. And like, okay, we've had a Norton mentioned in the past who might be killing people for the barn, and now we've seen a photograph of the Norton we recognize in their hands that's been put there sometime before. So is it the reveal that this is actually the most future part of the timeline is this? But that doesn't make sense given how like modern the city is that Norton and Dr. Zoo are in. So I mean, I'm intrigued. They've got me hooked, and the layouts continue to be phenomenal. The way it suggests certain things based on the use of the color red, all that stuff is really good. But no, it was really like the stuff with Norton was really creepy this issue, with him seeing this demonic face in the shadows, and obviously Dr. Zoo not being allowed to get to him. But the highlight of this issue by far was the vision or the memory that the priest sees, and then this photograph at the end just completely being like the reveal that the city was also called Gideon Falls was a pretty big reveal a couple of issues ago. This feels like an even bigger one, where now it's like, okay, it's almost impossible to tell the order of each part of the story here, and if there's time travel involved, or is there multiple Nortons? Does Norton go back through time later on and become this killer because the barn turns him into a killer? This voice in the barn like turns him into a killer for him, which is tragic in its own right, because he seems like he's not a bad guy inherently. It's scared and neurotic for sure, but not necessarily evil. So fascinated by where all this is going to like come together. Fascinated.
What issue was this?
This was issue 8.
Issue 8, okay.
And I think there's
because there's only 27 issues.
Yeah, I was going to say there's like 20 something issues, yeah.
So yeah, you're like a third of the way through almost.
Yeah.
So it's just starting to get Yeah, so no spoilers or anything, but I just pulled up an article on it, and it said that it was from two separate stories that weren't working on their own, but Lemire clicked when he put them together. So I'm wondering if that's where the disconnect still is this early, where you're trying to piece together, where it goes, but it's actually two different things. But the two different timelines is reminding me of that. What was that book that he did with Snyder? That when you read it one way, right, it was about one character, and then you flipped it over, it was like a flip book. And then you read the different ones.
I don't remember. I remember that being a thing. I don't remember what it was now that you're bringing it up, though.
Yeah. But it kind of reminds me of that, where there's actually two concurrent stories going on. You just don't realize it yet. Like you're seeing the tail end of one, while the other one's playing out, and once everything's all said and done. But every time you talk about it, it makes me want to go get the first trade and check it out for myself.
Yeah, I mean
like that demonic face, I don't know what it looks like, and I don't want to, but I kind of do want to.
Oh, so good. It's so good. I mean, the entire thing's collected into two big collections. If you get the deluxe versions, it's just like, I don't know if it's like 14 and 13 issues or how it's split, but it's just two big books. So it's easy enough to get it in big chunks. I think if it's in trades, it's maybe like 5 trades or whatever. But no, it's excellent. This is maybe one of the most enticing issues from the lore and like the mystery element. This is an easy like 9 out of 10, maybe even a 9.5, honest. But I don't keep track of these scores for the Patreon book, so it doesn't really matter too much. But I'll give it a 9. So that's Gideon Falls issue 8. Finally, Patreon wise, I have the next Planetary issue to get to, which is a Planetary Authority special called Ruling the World. So obviously I'm familiar with some of the Authority characters. We've seen them pop up before. Jenny Sparks obviously most recently, but we've seen some of them with Superman before in the last few years. I was not necessarily prepared for this being like a 50-page special, so it was kind of like I was like 10 pages in. I'm like, oh, how much have I got left of this? And I'm like, oh, there's another 40 pages. All right, that's a beefy one. All right,
Hey, at least you got Jimenez art.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think it felt I felt the length of this one a bit more than say the Batman crossover issue, which was a similar length. I think that one flew really, and maybe it's just because obviously Batman's one I'm more familiar with, and I'm a lot more into Batman, so it was easier to like be excited for them merging. Here, what's interesting is they never actually meet. Per se, like Planetary kind of like notice Authority are also there dealing with a crisis as this stuff starts off, and they're like, hey, we want to know more about these Authority characters, so we're going to kind of spy on them and steal a couple of their secrets. But yeah, the issue starts with like the Authority fighting these there's these creatures, but it's all coming from one big giant weird octopus alien thing that's like just like huge, a big 2-page spread of it. And everyone else is sort of running around dealing with it, and Planetary are also running around there, and Snow is kicking Drummer up the ass and saying, I told you, idiot, not to touch those eggs. They're activated by human touch, so some alien eggs of some kind, or interdimensional eggs of some kind, were touched by Drummer that released this thing. And we get a little flashback, because they're in Rhode Island, and it flashes back to Rhode Island in like 1931, and Snow had to go meet this writer who's there, who's basically talks about how he was writing his book, and the snowflake, the interdimensional snowflake, appeared in front of him, and these eggs came out of it, and he's writing about it. But it turns out this writer is a complete racist, because he's very pompous to begin with, but then at the end he looks at these alien eggs, and he basically says, I'm rephrasing it, but he says, I think these are black people eggs. And that's how that scene ends.
Sounds like So you said it's a writer they're in Rhode Island?
Yes.
So I wonder if it's supposed to be H.P. Lovecraft, because he was a notorious racist.
Yeah, that actually probably is, because they've done that before. They've went after real writers and stuff in these issues. I never said his name, I don't think. So I was actually thinking, is this meant to be a real dude? There wasn't enough to tell me. I mean, I didn't know if Lovecraft was from Rhode Island, so that's news to me. But it makes sense.
Well, he's from Massachusetts, but that's if you're trying to disguise things because you don't want to slander somebody.
Sure.
Right.
In fiction, you change it just a little bit.
Which is maybe why they didn't specifically name him, because maybe just like, oh, because we're saying something bad about him, we'll obfuscate it just enough to keep us in the clear.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Knowing what they've done, and it fits the time period as well, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, Snow kind of grumbles about it a little bit, but it ends up being mostly the Authority that take care of them. There's some action scenes, like there's a giant like explosion as they hit it with a big cannon, whatever. I think that's the engineer who does that, one of the Authority characters. So yeah, they see it all kind of blow up and whatnot, and from there, but like Planetary discussing was like, hey, they've got this big ship called the Carrier. It's like miles wide, miles deep. So we're going to sneak onto it, and Jaquita wants to break onto it and figure out like all the things they know. We have to be in the know and all that. But obviously it's a bit weird because Snow like has a history with Jenny Sparks, and that's sort of addressed because Jenny Sparks like sees like his like, photo in the footage or whatever from like, the aftermath when they're on the ship with them, and she's like, that face looks familiar, and we get a quick flashback to like the 1930s when they slept together and they were kind of awkwardly like getting up in the morning and making just small talk basically about how they don't want to see each other again. So yeah, also Drummer says that maybe the Century babies are like humanity's immune system to like try and like take care of whatever's the 20th century is going to throw at us, which still gets a little bit pissy about, honestly. But yeah, so the whole thing is that the Authority are doing some cleanup, and they're chit-chatting. The others, Planetary, sneak onto the ship after the little flashback that I mentioned. However, in the meantime, the son of the writer, right? So again, this is maybe why they didn't also name him, because they're going to have this fictional son character who's evil. But he's like come after all these scientists who are working in a secret location, and he's killed most of them. He's kept one alive, and he's been obsessed with finding this universal or multiversal snowflake again, and he wants to open it up, which he does. And he's left one scientist alive who happens to be a woman, and she says as he opens it up and we get this big page of him in silhouette with a snowflake in front of him, he says, "Why haven't you killed me yet?" And he responds with the following: "Because I need someone to have sex with as I kill the world, of course." So yeah, he's not a very pleasant guy either. So that's like just like, okay, that's what we're doing here in the middle of this, because he's monologuing as he's talking about all of this and whatever. So yeah, then the Planetary sneak onto the Carrier, and they're looking around, and they're like, yeah, they're never going to know we're here. This place is as big as a city. It doesn't matter. And Drummer's like try to like jack into what's going on. But it's basically when they get like the call, if you will, that this is all going on with the bad guy. Planetary like teleport there to see what's going on, and they basically see that he's opened a gateway, and all these like robot droid things are all flying through. So there's a lot of action here. There's a lot of stuff with the Authority, like getting into a big fight with them. And if I sound like I'm a little disinterested in this, it's because I kind of was, if I'm honest. Like, I thought the villain was interesting, but the villain's actually lying there dead when they go to this location, right? He's died in the process of letting these things through, and then it's just like a bunch of robot-looking things fighting, like the Authority, which I'm not that compelled by them in and of themselves. So you see like Midnighter and Apollo and stuff like fighting these things. But they talk about how there's something in the bleed, and perhaps the more interesting thing about it is that out of the bleed and the snowflake comes like an evil looking version of the Authority. It's like Jenny Sparks is like a sort of lizard person. Like Apollo looks like a giant. Midnighter's got like almost like Batman style ears, but he's like demonic looking. Just this evil version of them, and kind of the central idea they get to here is the reason why they were looking into the Authority in the first place is the idea that, well, these beings are very powerful, and we don't actually know the extent of their power. Like, they could be a major player on Earth. Like, they could cause a lot of trouble if they have so much power. That's why we want to look into them. So the kind of like final note they get into after, like, they close they put them back out of the blade, they close the portal, and the fight with the Authority and all the other enemies is all like dissipated. The final page is kind of saying, hey, yes, those beings that came out of the blade, they looked a lot like, and yeah, they did look a lot like them. And that kind of just reinforces the idea of why we had to look into them in the first place, is because, they could be a ruling power. That's the phrase that's used. The more we know about them, the less chance there is of them turning out like that, obsessed with ruling world. So it's this idea of like, yeah, this group could become like an evil force if we don't keep tabs on them. So that's why we were doing it. So it just kind of, that's kind of the point of the whole thing in the end, is just sort of like them looking into who the Authority are and making sure that they're, whatever. And it just ends with him saying, strange world. That's Elijah saying that. And then she says, yeah, let's keep it that way. The end. So, if I'm honest, I did find this a little bit of a slog. Like, I think there was some interesting ideas here or there. But the core idea of looking into the Authority, I don't think was ever all that interesting. Or at the very least, when it was about to become interesting, it kind of turned into being about something else, even though it kind of looped back around to being about the threat of what the Authority could be if they go unchecked, necessarily. And maybe this is setting seeds for something down the line, and it'll be good that it was there and that I read it. But I definitely like this less than almost any issue of Planetary, right? One, because it was kind of long and it was a bit of a slog. Maybe if it had only been like the usual 20-something pages and it was a bit more condensed, I could have gotten the same beats without feeling like I was. But it felt like there was a lot of fighting and a lot of action just to pad it out, right? And I don't think I usually feel that with Planetary, and I certainly didn't feel it with the Batman crossover issue either, that was oversized. But but there was definitely a sort of feeling like when certain characters from the Authority came on page where I'm like, oh yeah, the Engineer, yeah, I don't really care about you. Oh, the Midnighter, I don't really care about you. Like, I don't really necessarily like a lot of these characters all that much. So that was also maybe hindering that a little bit as well. So I'm excited to get back to just a regular issue of Planetary next time, which, I think I'm technically onto the next book next time. This is the end of this collection, this issue. But
nice.
I'm looking forward to getting just a regular Planetary issue again, because things are heating up there with all the stuff that Snow's remembering and all the stuff that's bubbling up with the Four. Like, there's a lot of good creepy stories happening with that. So that's my thoughts on that. I'd probably give it like a 6. Like, it's not terrible or bad, and like, when it dips into Planetary territory, which is using like a real writer to try and like build some lore around it, like that stuff is kind of fun. But yeah, I just felt a bit too padded, and I wasn't into a lot of the action that much. So there you go. That's a Planetary Authority special. And that'll take us on to the final part of the show, where we pick our favorite stuff of the week, favorite panel/moment, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course, top 5 books. So yeah, we'll get into it. Matt, what was your panel/moment of the week?
All right, so it's gonna come from one of the Absolute books. And there's some real big ones. Absolute Martian Manhunter had that image of the Martian and all that white, paint or whatever infecting the city.
That mysterious white substance.
Yes, which will remain nameless. And then Superman had some really good ones. The last image from Absolute Superman with him holding the suit with his, that pained expression on his face. There's that. And then in Wonder Woman, I think my moment's going to be when they actually use that device to when Batman does to turn Wonder Woman back to normal. Because I didn't expect him to use it so soon. Like, I thought, this is going to be a 2-part like crossover story. And the fact that I actually got surprised by it, I like when comics can do that. So
sure.
Yeah, that was going to be mine.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to go with Absolute Wonder Woman, but I'm going to go with... I like a lot of the issue, and I like a lot of the creepier moments especially, but I think I'm going to go with the exchange right near the end, where Diana is like, hey, maybe one day you'll give me your name, and he's like, I bet you've already figured it out, and she's like, well, yeah, but that's yours to give, and then he's like, go on, let me hear it. Like, I like that exchange because it was kind of like playing off who both characters are in a really smart little way, and a simple exchange of words. So I'm going to go with that. Cover of the week. There's basically a couple that I would mention. I think. I'm just trying to pick which one of the three that I want to do my favorite. I'll mention the Dustin Wynn variant for Absolute Martian Manhunter. Looks really cool, very colorful. It's kind of the head, but with the multicolors around his head, and even a little bit inside his head. There's also a cool cover for same book by Weather Deladera, which has got a really nice just color scheme. It's kind of a sort of cream background, but the colors really pop in front of it. I like that one.
It's very mid-century, which I love.
Yeah. But my cover of the week, I think, is going to be the Greg Smallwood variant for Detective Comics, which is the horizontal cover with Gordon and Batman looking at a dead body at a crime scene. So it just looks really good. The detail is fantastic. It's very you could put that on a wall quite happily.
Yeah, I love it. It looks like there's a pocket watch or something there hanging in front, and it's out of focus, right?
Yeah, there's a pocket watch, there's a photograph, there's a Riddler envelope, a key, and a hat, like an old school hat, all dangling from the top. So
it's a really cool cover.
Yep, yeah, it's really, really nice, really moody. What are you picking?
Yeah, so Superman 33 has one of the David Aja covers, and it's Lex in his traditional uniform, right? The purple high collared shirt with the green pants, riding a bomb like the guy in Doctor Strangelove. Okay. And it's a very funny image. It's and then Absolute Wonder Woman has this really great connecting cover that I'm sure is going to connect with Absolute Batman. Done by, why is it not? Let me see. Leslie Lee, whose artist name is, I think, Lyrics.
I did notice that one. It was probably my favorite of the Wonder Woman covers. But I was wondering where the other part of it was. It didn't occur to me that the other part is probably the Batman issue that's coming next.
Yeah. It's just, she's got the Buster Sword. She's got Pegasus behind there. It's very moody. And I'm sure when the Batman one comes out, it'll be good. But mine's going to be one you already mentioned. And it's from Absolute Martian Manhunter. And it's the Deladera. It's got this mid-century vibe with the way that the colors mesh. The way that the guys are positioned, right? With John and then the Martian. There, it's all very I don't have the word to describe it, but it's very eclectic. So that's my pick.
Cool. What about art of the week? We picked for that.
Let's see. I mean, it's always easy. I got 2 Sherman books to go from, right? But there's also Fernandez, right? Rodríguez. I always do this every time.
Rodríguez is the artist on Martian Manhunter.
Rodríguez. There we go. But you also got Janin for tech, right? But yeah, man, this one's tough because they're all great in their own ways. But I do have to say, only one of them had a Superman symbol in the panels with the shield, and that was Absolute Wonder Woman. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
Yeah, I think I gotta go with Rodríguez. Now, if I could include Green Arrow's issue, if I could include that Montos art, then that would be maybe a fight.
Montos?
But I'm going to go with Rodríguez from Absolute Martian Manhunter. I've missed it. It's really inventive and playful. I would probably put Absolute Wonder Woman. I'd probably put second place though out of the new books. Well, that or Janin. Those two are very close actually. But very good. All right, top 5 books of the week, Matt. On you go.
All right, 1 is Absolute Wonder Woman. 2 is Absolute Martian Manhunter. 3 is Absolute Superman. 4 is Detective Comics, and 5. Trying to remember the grades I gave out. I think 5 is Green Lantern.
Okay. Number 1 for me, it's going to be similar for the first 3 at least. Number 1 is Absolute Wonder Woman. 2 is Absolute Martian Manhunter. 3 though, I'll go Detective Comics. Then 4 Absolute Superman, and then 5. It's either Green Lantern or Justice League Red. I'll go Justice League Red. I'll throw Justice League Red the bone and give that a little bit of shine, but they're very close. They're very close.
Yeah.
So that's the top 5s. I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. So next week we have nothing. I'll tell you what's coming the week after from DC Comics. I forgot, next week's the off week. But when we come back in 2 weeks'
I thought
time,
you were doing a bit.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't say anything.
No. I just meant what's coming next, but I still phrased it the way I normally do. So next week, again, well, the week after next, we have Absolute Superman issue 15. So I guess 14 might get delayed, because it was weird we had 3 Absolute books in 1 week, but that'll be why, because the 15 is like right around the corner. So yeah, Absolute Superman 15, Batman issue 5, Absolute Green Lantern issue 10, KO Night Fight issue 3, Absolute Batman Arc M Special issue 1, so looking forward to see what that is. You got Batgirl issue 15, Poison Ivy 40, the Batman Green Arrow The Question Arcadia issue 2, GSA issue 15, Adventures of Superman Book of L issue 5, Cheetah in Cheshire Rob the Justice League issue 6, which is the final issue of that. And then there's the 50th anniversary Treasury edition of Superman vs. Amazing Spider-Man, and that's the facsimile edition of that. So it's weird that the word edition's in that title twice, but it is, so there you go. Teen Titans Go issue 11, and then there's some other facsimiles not worth mentioning. So that's what's coming out in 2 weeks. So it's a fairly stacked week, all things considered. But again, no books next week, so therefore no episode next week. But there will be an extra annual episode sometime in early to mid-January, so look forward to that. So we'll take a nice little rest next week. You can all do the same. Catch up on some old books or anything you want to catch up on. And look out for the voting form for the best stuff of the year, so we can have the audience results on the annual episode. I'll remember to do it this year. I promise. That'll go out maybe once we know when we're recording that, or maybe even just before I know when we're recording it. I'll put it out in about a week. I'll try and put the form out roughly around when the next episode would go out next week, so there's something there. I'll post it on YouTube. I'll post it in the Discord. Those are the primary locations that'll be posted. So check there for that. So thank you for joining us. That is the show, everyone. You can support it over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. Get the show a little bit early. Get access to the exclusive Batgirl Year 1 reviews that we're doing right now every month. And the right to vote on the Patreon's pick, which again, that voting's up now for patrons, so have a look for that. But that is the show. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We do appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. Hope you had an amazing Christmas. Have a happy New Year, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time. So keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.